Right.
Exciting.
Can if it's still on. Yes. It should be. It should be on.
Dat was wel leuk die foto's. Merk je nu pas op.
Vanuit in de camera. Sorry.
Jawel, maar for some reason niet afgemerkt. Dat is wel cozy.
What's happening here? Maybe you have to reconnect.
Ik kan ook eens checken of ik bij mij mijn internet kan uitdoen op mijn pc of zo.
No worries.
Zo.
Ik ga het ook opnemen.
Oh shit. I can see myself.
Ja, we doen
Exciting.
dat straks weg, hè.
Ça va. Het
Alright.
is wel confronterend.
Dat je kaal zelf.
nee, gewoon om mezelf zo op een camera te zien, zo. Snap je?
Ja, ik heb het ook
Nee,
wel.
boeien, als ik kaal met zou boeien, zou ik in het muts aan doen.
Alright.
Right.
We'll do a quick sound check first. See how we listen. Ah, you can do actually you can do a very good sound check.
I mean, yeah, I could try. Let's check it out. Let's try it out. I mean, we sound kind of the same volume. Maybe I should sit a little further. Yeah, it sounds alright. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it will be good. People. It's also half. Ik wou zeggen, it was a bit low the volume, but it was halfway for me. So.
Okay.
Anyways.
Alright.
Right. Let's get started. Thank you
Let's
for
get it going.
joining today, David. The good roommate David, and he's gonna be doing the interview. Okay, let's get
Just
this.
gonna
clear.
ask some questions.
Yeah, we'll do this podcast number of 14 today with David about the evolution of music and what is today's age, the meaning of music in today's age, which is the
It's a great title.
great clickbait title from David himself.
Is music dying?
And why you should care.
why you should care?
So today we're gonna talk about why you should care about music dying, and or is
Exactly.
it dying? You know, maybe it's just thriving. We don't know yet.
It's everything. All
It's
at
everything
once,
and all.
No, I'm not. I don't feel like I'm in the authority to say that, but I'll just talk about what I know. So.
Yeah, maybe a little introduction of what do you do or why you are busy with music. I guess most people know, but
So I'm David, his roommate, friend.
he's a guy I know.
And I've been playing music for most of my life, but at around I think 16, I picked up the bass guitar, and so from then onwards, I fell in love with it, and I started to take it very seriously. And at some point, I started to pursue music, as a possible career.
Okay.
And I'm still doing that, still trying, but it's going. It's going.
And was it your first instrument? No, probably.
No, I grew up with playing piano. My mom
Piano.
taught me. She's a
Okay.
piano teacher, so it's like I grew up with playing piano, and I kind of and then I went to the Kunstmaniora, which is around the corner here, for piano, because I was never a great student, so it's like at that point it was just like, okay, what are you gonna do? Well, you got piano, so might as well try that. And I was like, okay. So
You felt a bit stuck in that part of your life, like you didn't know what to do, and then you just went along with music.
pretty
or how
much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I didn't do well in school, but I also didn't care too much about. I never cared too much about school as well. So it was like I'm always a bit difficult with that, with doing things that I don't care about. So yeah, but at that, I mean, I was aware that this is not working. So I'm just I'm playing piano. I can play piano. So let's just try going for that. And then Yeah, actually, and then I did the, how do you say, entrance exam, I guess.
Exam, yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad, I was really glad that I passed, and so I kind of was doing that, and
Did you feel in your place when you passed the exam, or was it like
yeah.
also a bit, I don't care, I'll see what it gives, you know?
No, actually, at that point, I was actually very happy that I did. I mean, it was like I wasn't doing well, and I was actually, you know,
Took away a lot of stress maybe about what you were gonna
yeah,
do.
and it's just like some, you know, it's just like a nice little, I want to say ego boost, but it's just like I
Yeah,
actually
definitely.
did something good, you
It's
know,
not
actually,
bad to
yeah,
feel
it's like
good,
it
you know?
felt like I, you know, achieved, so, you know, it was like
Yeah,
I was
I
able to
get
go
that.
to school, and that was very good. So, but yeah,
A
I just
confidence booster.
yeah, I guess so, something like that,
Okay.
and yeah,
And now you got your official statue of being
yeah,
an artist.
well, it's yeah, it's basically, yeah,
Really? No?
so
Or is it something different?
no, it's
It's a confirmation that you're a real artist.
a real artist
By society.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's called a statue, but it's like, it's not really a social it's like kind of a whole thing, but yeah, I'm happy about that, but it's not really about that. Like, for me, it's about actually doing what I love to do, which that's really the end
Yeah, I
goal.
know it's not about that statute, but it does provide you the minimum
Yeah,
that you can live on,
exactly. Yeah,
and that's a big worry that maybe
it allows
otherwise.
it allows me to focus on the music part without, you know, spending too much time working a full-time or half-time job, or like
Yeah.
some job that takes away a lot of energy, which, you know, nothing wrong about that. If they would take away the statute tomorrow, then I would be fine with
Yeah.
working a job. You know, it's what it is. But
Do you think that statue, so basically for people who don't know, it provides a minimum amount of money for each month, and
Yeah.
if you play or get income, it gets subtracted
pretty
from
much,
it?
yeah.
Do you feel like people maybe say no to certain gigs because they're like, it's not in my wheelhouse, and they're like just they got their basic income, so they don't really care about it too much?
There's definitely a big part of that. They actually like changed up some stuff, and I think they're definitely trying to weed out those people, because there's definitely those people that get it, and then it's like, you know, why would I play that
Yeah.
that gig, because like I earn more if I just stay in the house, which it's not. I mean, it's like, it's easy, sure, but it's not really why I do this. So for me, it's
Yeah, definitely.
it's more a means to an end, really. It's more like something that allows me to,
You have to
you know,
focus on what you actually want to achieve.
exactly. So if they you know, find a reason to take take it away, you know, it is what it is. But I'm very grateful for it.
So, maybe a bit more about what do you think you want to achieve, or what do you felt like you've achieved already? Are there like some goals that you're like, maybe I want to reach that, or play that instrument on stage, or
Yeah.
are there any like goals you can pinpoint to about what you want to achieve in the industry,
Yeah, it's
or in music in general?
it's I'm actually right now at the stage where I'm really thinking about like, what's the, you know, what is the next step, what do I really want to do. But yeah, initially when I started to take like music seriously with the bass guitar, and like my vision was like, okay, you know, I'm just gonna focus on, you know, being the guy that can play everything, you know, just being that all around guy. And I was fine with like, oh yeah, you know, if I end up, you know, playing, I'm just saying something, playing Schlager for a living, you know, it's like, you know, I'm still playing music, whatever.
Yeah, I get that.
Now, you know, through the years as I have evolved, you know, obviously I'm a huge fan of music, and my tastes have evolved as well.
Yeah.
So I do have a certain, you know, preferences. Right now it's more about, you know, the gigs that I love to do the most, or the things that I love to do the most, are basically the ones more, where it's more, maybe more improvisational, where there's more freedom, where there's more room for, I would say, individuality.
Yeah. Trying your own thing and
kind of like that, which it's very hard to actually make a living from it, and that's not what I'm doing. But either way, I'm also, with Blackwave, for instance, like one of the groups I play with, it's I love doing that as well. So there's people who like really only jazz, for instance, but I'm kind of, I like all things. If it's good music, then then there's a case to be made for me.
So would you say that you're like more focused on just producing music that resonates with yourself, or is it like more that you want to provide this experience to the audience, or how do you feel like, what is it for you that you try to search in those gigs, like what is it in it for you?
Yeah.
Except for the money, of course, but is there like something you can say, like, I really want to get this improv going so I can express more of my music and try different things and see how the audience reacts to it? Or is it more like, I feel like going on a big stage with a lot of people is something I really want to achieve, and like with Blackwave, such things are maybe more impressionant? I don't know, like, how do you feel? Is it something you want to strive for? Is it more like, if I make my means to an end with just doing jazz improvs, then it's maybe also good enough for you, I don't know.
I in an ideal world, I would like to have a little bit of everything, because I do love both worlds, honestly, because it's a very different thing. On one hand, you're on the improvisation stuff, whatever, you're my vision of it is really just that people come for well, not just me, but like for
the experience.
And it's like, it's a little bit more niche, I will say. And on the other hand, it's like with Blackwave, for instance, or with other projects that are more pop oriented, I am working in I'm a part of this bigger thing, and like I'm trying to contribute in a meaningful way while still not not taking center stage, and not taking the leads, and not putting all the spotlight on me, because it's not about that. And I do love that. Like I do think there's a
do you feel your contribution is proportionate or like adequate, acknowledged by the people like in the group or by other people in the audience, for example?
I mean, in the
do
group,
you feel like you are being seen, or is it more like, okay, I'm part of the live band, but I don't really have too much to say? I don't know how the dynamic is there.
Well, in the live band, I say what I feel like I have to say, which is not always a lot, but sometimes it's more, depending on the situation. And I try not to, I try to make, and everyone tries to make decisions or like make suggestions that are actually beneficial to the full picture. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I try to do, and also like when I'm playing, at least on the stage, live, that's what I'm more and more trying to just pull away, my individual, look at me, what cool stuff I can play, and just be more part of the full picture. Which
is it difficult, or is that not something that you're struggling with?
I mean, I've definitely had to learn that the past few years, I'm not gonna lie.
Because in academia, you're maybe like centered, like, oh, it's all about you in that moment.
Yeah, and it's like
on stage, you gotta maybe take a step back again.
Yeah, in the conservatory, you're much more at least. Well, I did jazz, so it's like a lot more focused on, your own development and your skill and all that stuff, which I do think is, as I like, and it's not unimportant, but obviously when you're playing in a pop group, part of a big stage, and like this part of a production, it's you have to kind of know your place, I guess. And I do think it's more and more I'm learning to do that, and it's actually like it feels good because I know, even though I'm not, I'm very much not taking the foreground, I know that I'm
The
contributing
overall,
in an important way, and the people in the band, they they know this for sure, that's the thing.
So you're actually like, because you described in ideal world you would have one of both parts of those, like the jazz improvs and the centers, the big stages, and you're actually doing that right now, right? So
Kinda, yeah. The jazz
does that
thing
mean
is,
that you're like pretty content with how things are developing for yourself, or
I don't think I've ever been in a place where I'm content, but
you're in a continuous
it's,
state of discontent, or what?
No, not well. It's always I'm always trying to
Push yourself.
Well, it sounds like I'm such crazy go getter, but
No, musically maybe.
I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is not always a good thing. Definitely not. But sometimes it's like, it's like
you feel like it's always not enough now. Like it's just not enough. The thing you reached, or
yeah, I would say, or not necessarily not enough, but like, for instance, about 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to go on tour with this artist Jose James is called. It's like one of my longtime heroes back in the day, and that was like that gig. I was touring around Europe for a little while, and it was like we were playing songs, but it was a lot more free and kind of semi improvisational, and like I felt like I was doing my thing, and that I came home with a feeling like this is what I want to do, Okay. So which is, it's not easy to pursue that, but that's kind of for me like a good, how do you say, like maat stuff, like a good,
bar to
a good
set.
bar that to what's
to measure against.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So it's not that you don't appreciate what you have, but you're feeling like, okay, I had a taste of this this combination of both, and it's more what I want to go towards.
Exactly.
It's definitely good that you already know like your goal for where you want to go or what you want to try out.
But yeah, as far as how to go about it, it's a different story. But yeah, it was like this. There definitely was a moment like I'm still extremely grateful that I was able to do that, because it's
it was a great
it feels
opportunity.
great. Yeah. It was also a lot of fun, because that's how I know, because I felt like I felt in a good place, But
I think like your goal, and you gotta try different things to get there, and you don't know what will get you there. That's I guess for everybody in life how it goes.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's nice to hear that you already like had a goal in mind for what you want to do.
I mean, it's not a very clear goal, but it's always changing.
It's a feeling of what you want, how you feel like you're achieving something, I guess, because you're doing your own stuff a bit more in that sense, and also being on the big stage with a lot of people. And I guess that is a difficult combination, but it's not impossible for you, I think. Like.
No, I don't think so too. But it's also,
it's not a given.
It's not a given for sure.
Yeah.
It's also kind of I mean, not to put it negatively, but it's also kind of like a little bit of an egotistical goal, maybe. Although maybe that's pretty normal, I think.
What's wrong with like you wanting to express yourself a bit more?
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
I get that it's true. Maybe you seem it like it's an ego thing, but I believe like you have one of the people that have the least ego things around him. So you definitely can go a bit harder on that one, like you can be a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Just my opinion, so it doesn't like who am I?
It's been right now it's better than it's been before, so I'm improving.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You wanna go maybe through the evolution of music a bit, or you wanna talk a bit more about certain projects that you are?
For me, either way is good. I mean, I don't think it's really useful if I just talk about
about yourself.
Well, it is, but it is as long as it's going towards something, you know, and not just, oh yeah, I'm doing this, and then all right, bye bye.
Well, I think it's also nice for people to to get to know you, know.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
There is nothing.
I mean,
I get what you're coming from, but it's also nice just to talk about things you like and envision, and it doesn't have to mean it has to lead up to something, you know. We can just talk freely about anything we like. If I want to say tribal wars here, I can say tribal, like,
sure.
You know, like, it doesn't matter. We have a few viewers, but it doesn't matter, like, what do we talk about? It's just it's just for us, you know.
I mean, I can see there's some like music history questions, which
You want to
I
go
know
to
a little
the
bit
questions
about,
first, or?
Sure. I mean, I'm not honestly. Maybe that's not very easy for you, but for me it's fine either way.
I like maybe to go through the genres first, about how ChatGPT saw the evolution of music.
Okay.
And I just want to see how you think about those eras, because there is also a few questions from Zoe, I think.
Okay.
About
nice.
The moment or era in history that has the most impact, or that you love the most. So it may be nice to first go through each one.
Yeah.
And then we can go back to where that was.
Sure.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know shit about music in general, especially the evolution of it.
I also, my knowledge is also limited. You know, I'm not a music historian, so, you know.
So I guess it started with ancient music.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. I think
we can always start with putting ancient in front of anything.
Yeah. Prehistoric.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
So it's basically vocalizations and early instruments. So I would guess like bamboo sticks on rocks or something. I don't know, like how I envision that. You have any idea of what the early instruments were?
Right. So this is an area where I have very limited knowledge of. I went to a classical history in conservatory for a little while. I actually went to the class.
Whoa.
And for that little while, they talked a little bit about, you know, just like prehistoric whatever, and like something about, I remember something about they found a flute made out of like some bone. I think.
Oh yeah.
I forgot what part of the body it was, but it was like an animal bone of some part, and they actually found that someone had made like holes in there, and it made like, you know, like you could blow on it and make.
Were the
sounds.
holes like in the right places, I would assume, or is that?
I don't remember. I think it was. I don't really remember. I don't.
No, it's not that important.
But it was interesting.
There were already like carving instruments in the early days. Okay.
Yeah, like it's basically that one flute. It's like a good evidence of someone actually, you know, they were doing this kind of stuff, you know. But obviously prehistoric times, so we don't have that much knowledge about it. Or I have very limited knowledge.
I did not know that flutes were like one of the first things, like.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the first.
No, just like in the early days, like let's make a flute, you know. Like it doesn't sound
crazy,
too intuitive.
Makes you think about how they got to that point, right? It's like.
And I was like,
because it's not a super complex instrument, you know. In principle, it's you know, a tube and there's holes in it and there's a part to blow on. But yeah, it's interesting that they made, you know, a distinction between notes, that you actually could play different notes and stuff. That's crazy.
I've always wondered, like, what does a note make it, how do I say it in English? Like, what does a note mean being like on note, like on, you can have like a false note, like something that doesn't sound good, and something that sounds like a note. What is like, how can you define a difference in that? Like in the early days they also had to be like, this doesn't sound nice, maybe I carve this a bit bigger. I don't know.
Well,
like, what does it make?
That goes into different territory, because you have to think like, why do some notes for us sound nice and why and others don't sound nice, you know? And then you have the whole thing of tuning. So obviously, you know, it's not like the universe has decided that music theory is the way it is, and all the and this note in this tuning in this frequency, that's the right note. It's like a historical thing, because back then, in Baroque era and
Mm-hmm.
different eras,
The classical
they
era.
they had at least when I'm talking in the Western cultures, they had like different standards of tuning. So for instance, like if we have like as a reference, like A, the note A or La,
Yeah, I don't know.
on a certain
Line
pitch. Yeah, but it's like back then it was like, let's say 420 something hertz. That's like the reference, you know what I mean, and like
Okay.
built on that, it's like the other notes have certain tunings.
Certain.
Yeah, and like now, these days it's 440, like A 440, and that's like the general standard. So most music that you're gonna hear, or like let's say pop music or whatever, it's A 440 hertz, which means like
Okay.
the A in that pitch is 440 hertz, and that's like the reference
So
point.
the La was different for other areas. Oh, okay, so
For
that-
different
time
eras.
periods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that is like, it's very much a cultural thing. I don't know where the 440 came from, but I've I've read some things. I'm not sure how true this is, but I've read something that it started from the Nazi era. But
Don't
again,
cancel
don't
me.
quote me on this. Yeah, don't cancel me. Don't quote me on this. But yeah, and there's a whole thing also where, like, a whole new age,
Okay.
a hippie thing where people are like, oh yeah, A has to be 432 hertz because that's like the rhythm of the universe, and like you're more in tune with the earth and whatever. Which that's a whole like
Okay, I thought it was more
esoteric stuff, but
more
yeah.
scientific in that way, but it's more like socially grown
Yeah.
and society that is like,
Yeah,
these sounds are a bit better in our genre.
Yeah, which brings me to my next point, and that's that our idea of the right notes, right? You have 12 notes in the scale, so like do, re, mi, fa, sol, you know what I mean? And the tuning of those actual notes is very specific to our Western world, and it's also specific to instruments as well, because it's a very difficult thing to explain, but there's different cultures in the world, like Indian music or Japanese or Arabic music, or there's cultures. Sometimes it's very small cultures that have their own type of music and their own
notes.
Yeah, and their own type of tuning, because for instance we have 12 notes in the scale, and there are cultures that have, like, I don't know, I'm just say something like 36 notes in the scale. You know what I mean?
And do they find relations between those cultures? Like, for example, how much distance between one note and another note, or is that also like varying between?
I think it's more intuitive, and more of an intuitive spiritual thing usually. I mean, it depends on the culture obviously, but like Indian music, for instance, it's like, well, there's like they have a whole different tuning system, or like Arabic music, for instance, is also different, and it's all for us. Some notes might sound like oh, this is false, it's like out of tune, but it's a different weight, for us.
Okay.
It's also, we feel this way because we grew up this way, and everything around us is like all in this tuning, which when you think about it, it's very limiting.
Yeah,
because it's
I never thought about it that like other regions just have different notes. Like, I thought all the notes in all places were similar. Like, okay, the La here is the same La you'll find in China.
Definitely, yeah. And like even in Western culture, let's say, even if you go into like modern Western art and like Dadaism and that stuff.
So what was the last? Dadaism?
Dadaism. It's like a stroming, like an art form in whatever. Which there's people that are experimenting with like microtonal, which is like music that's it's like
in between,
in between, and like they're experimenting with that, and it's really, I mean, like I believe that it's the our system of music theory, and like why we feel certain things are right. I believe that it's kind of arbitrary, that it's
societally.
It's kind of it's kind of a societal thing that has grown over generations.
Yeah.
But I don't. There is maybe because actually like the tuning system that we are used to, it's actually like it goes back to. I might be not entirely right on this, but it goes back to like even Pythagoras.
Okay.
It's called Pythagorean tuning. It's like he had actually his a tuning system that is still,
still being used.
Or
it's in some sense being used. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting that someone like Pythagoras, he was thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
It's busy with maths and stuff, but it's all like
music.
It's like kind of.
There is like a lot of overlap, but also like a lot of like societal grown aspects about it. So I always looked a bit more scientific to music, like okay, if certain frequencies resonate better and whatever. And now it's more like we are getting used to those frequencies, and then we're enforcing those frequencies. Like it's a loop, and you're like saying this loop shouldn't necessarily be there. Like the tuning that we're used to, the notes that we're used to, it doesn't really mean that is music for us,
I mean, it's
something
the way that I think a lot of people, I think they have the misunderstanding that this is what music is comprised of. This is what like this is what like biologically feels good to us. Which again I think it's a cultural thing, and
it's a very important distinction indeed.
Yeah. And what was I gonna say? I think I was gonna say that it's all like music theory that as we know it, it's more built up to make Western music. You know what I mean? It's more like the music theory, or like Western music theory it's not the rules of music.
Yeah.
It is just like
how do you make
the framework of what Western music is a part of. That's more how I think about it, because it's one thing I learned like my last year at school. I had like 1 hour lesson with a piano teacher, and I was just talking about like I was like, oh yeah, I can't explain what I'm doing here, but I just like the sound of it. I was saying, and he was saying it like, yeah, that's entirely valid, and he was making the point like, if you can explain it, then it's valid, which means that you can invent.
If you can or can't explain it.
If you can explain it, so if
you said it,
which
what
means
you said was not valid, and
no, well,
because he couldn't explain it.
Yeah, it was valid, but yeah, it's like what he means is you can if you choose it, you can invent your whole your own theory and your own type of music that the theory supports. And if you can actually invent like say like, oh yeah, this sounds like that because it's this and this and this, then that's that's generally a valid way of of validating that music. But yeah, this is like experimental territory. I will say, but
it's just trying to come back to your own framework, I guess. Like you make a framework, and then you have the music, and
because the
music fits in the framework, then you can explain it. Like, oh, this is because of this.
Because there are a bunch of modern composers who their music sounds super, different, and obviously it's like more avant-garde, experimental, but it's like it sounds completely different than what we're used to, and it's because they have this system, their own system,
their own framework,
exactly,
supports it,
and it sounds wildly different because it's not about the usual Western classical theory, but their own.
Is it something that you are busy with, like making your own framework, or trying to see how other frameworks are? Are you more focused on the Western?
Man, I'm not a crazy theoretical guy, so for me it's most everything that I do musically is coming from a place of, do I like how it sounds? It's just like, oh, is this a vibe or not? That's mostly where I'm coming from.
Yeah, what I maybe referring to is if you make music or you play music, whatever, or listen, does it always fit in the Western framework, or are you also like more thinking about making music that could fit in other frameworks? Not that you have your framework, but
Yeah.
do you feel like what you are producing is in line with the framework of the Western?
What I generally do is definitely like it's very much based in, you know,
that
hip hop
Western
and
framework,
blues
yeah.
and funk and maybe like and jazz and you know that kind of world. So I don't go too esoteric with it, but I'm definitely very interested.
Esoteric, you meaning?
Yeah, like more otherworldly, you know, like
yeah.
more. But for me, it's I'm still experimenting, but
Okay.
I'm trying to get to a place where it's something that, you know, I can call my own thing, but it's still listenable for the general audience. It's not too far fetched.
Okay.
But again, that's work in progress. Yeah. I can't
like
elaborate
you're
too
still
much.
young, bro. Like
Yeah,
you
sure.
have so many years to go. You don't have
Of
to
course.
worry about having the framework and the music that fits to your like
Yeah.
you'll get there, you know.
No, sure.
So I think that was ancient music. No, just kidding.
On to the next one. No, yeah. This.
Now I'm realizing that actually the things I have here are probably all Western framework music.
Yeah, but that's fine. I know more about Western
Yeah,
than others.
definitely.
So.
I think the audience also relates a bit more to Western.
There's also a lot of my actually like that kind of music knowledge, the more theoretical and whatever. Like it's mostly like YouTube videos and like just reading Wikipedia and stuff. So if you want a good recommendation, it's like this guy on YouTube, Adam Neely.
You talked about it.
Yeah, he just makes like very. He tries to make it understandable for non-musicians.
Tries to explain the framework around the music.
Yeah, and like he finds different topics about, you know, just that you wouldn't think about normally. So he got interesting stuff.
Okay, Adam Neely, shout out to
Adam
him.
Neely, shout out. Also bass player.
Shout out to
Gang.
the bass players.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, in the early days we had those instruments, and I guess they didn't really have the framework as we know now, right?
Not as I mean,
I would
as
not
far
assume.
as I know.
I would not assume that they're like analyzing what sounds are
Yeah.
good. I think they're just.
But then again, like they were humans, right? So you could assume that someone was like, oh, this sounds nice, you know, and then they try to replicate that, and maybe like, you know, that they maybe they have a framework in their head, you know, but maybe it's
I
not
think
like
I said it wrong. It's not a theoretically framework, but they know, like, for example, a flute carver that this hole should be this big or something. Like,
probably.
I guess it's a lot about experience and not really like writing it down or making a consistent framework about it.
Which also, for instance, like Indian music, for instance, it's very different to our music in that it's not theoretical at all. Well, there is theory, but it's not like, oh, here's this book about theory and you have to learn it. No, it's like you sit down with a guru and like over years and years you observe him and and that's how you learn the music, and it's way different mentality. But it's
different. I guess it's more gatekeeping. If I hear like this, like you can't really play it without studying a guru for 10 years or something.
I mean, yeah, that's one way to put it. But it's also no. I would say like you can't traditionally understand it.
It's not something that you can learn. It's something you have to experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, and but I think that goes with a lot of music too.
Yeah, that was my next question. Can you learn music without really experiencing it?
What do you mean by experiencing?
Like, for example, I want to learn how to play the violin.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way I can understand what sounds good without having any previous recordings or listenings? Do you think that's something possible, or is that it maybe goes back to the societal thing, you know, like society versus biology? I don't know.
It's a good question, because I mean my own playing on the bass guitar, it evolves, but it also kind of evolves from music taste as well. You know, like a lot of music. A lot of music that I listen to is gonna indirectly influence
yeah.
my bass playing or my piano or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that you should probably listen to music if you wanna.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you have to open a theory book, for instance. You know, I do believe very much in the fact that you can never learn about theory and still be a good musician. You know, because it's about more than that.
I think that's also where it originates, you know, like there was no music theory back then. It was just listening to what sounds good and trying to replicate and elaborate on that sound.
Yeah. Like they had rules, but it's like the rules to make this kind of music, you know.
They did have rules, or what do you mean by they had
Well,
rules?
yeah, it's like when you look at Gregorian chants, for instance, you know,
The what?
Gregorian chants, it's like a like we're talking,
Gregorians,
Gregorians,
Okay.
like that kind of sound, you know, like the choir. It's never like the music never it doesn't sound crazy wild or anything. It's like this very, I don't know how strict they went, but it's it's always the same type of sound, the same similar intervals of notes,
Yeah.
and you can hear that there's a sort of, you know, a framework, I guess, like
Yeah, it's very
rule
limited
book.
to the ability to shift things, and there's
And, like,
always
over-
similar sounds. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I mean, over generation, like that's how this music evolved. Like classical music, for instance, it's like some guy or some guys did some things that were maybe a bit unorthodox at the time, but then, you know, other people started taking that, and, you know, it like evolves. So it's just how it goes.
Do you think, and this is probably like an easy question, but do you think, like, when, for example, I don't know where classical music started, but let's take Beethoven because it's someone I know. When he was playing, do you think people already knew, like, this is changing, or is that like something so gradually that you don't really know or understand when there's like a change in this music palette or this
That's a
framework?
good question. I'm not sure. Because I know that, for instance, like people like Bach, for instance, like a lot of music today can be traced back to his music, you know, because the way that he composed and the way that, you know, the how do I say this, like just
The timbre or something, like
the you know, the theory behind it, I will say, you know, for lack of a better word, it's definitely, it can be traced back to that. Like even a lot of jazz, it's like bebop, for instance, which is like a type of jazz. It's like I've heard it to be it'd be referred as like Bach with chromaticism, or like you could say it's Bach with extra steps. You know, it's like,
okay.
Well, I'm simplifying.
So it's
it, but,
not really lined in terms of time. It's more lined in terms of people that played it or something like.
I
For
think
example,
so. I don't know how, if I can say much about it.
You can
But
only
I
say
think-
that Bach was so influential because afterwards there was so many more music contributed or influenced by him.
Yeah, or if you look at music for today or for the past 50, 100 years, you can see how much of it, or at least theoretically, how much of it can be traced back to the Baroque era.
So I guess it's not possible to say like when Bach was alive, he's gonna change the music, you know?
I don't think at that moment I don't think at that moment was a crazy generational shift.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think so. I think it evolved.
Because my question
I'm not sure,
where it comes from is what I also feel with a lot of things nowadays, is that it all seems to be like one gray zone. There's no really distinct points for in any area. This can be political. This can be with music. This can be with just how people feel and think in their daily life. The only thing I can say is like the homeworking and stuff. Like when COVID hits, I think that is gonna be like a start of
like
something
a shift
new
in how people
view their job and their personal life. But other than that, I don't feel like in our time life that there will be so clear points, you know, like COVID was pretty drastic in that sense.
Yeah.
Because I also like to come back a bit to the earlier question about being in tone and in tune. I feel like a lot of music nowadays is trying out this offbeat kind of things, you know,
Like what
for example, with hip hop, I think there are some, I don't know any of my top, but there are like the newer generation of hip hoppers, I guess, are more trying to experiment with like the beat and like
trap and like
no, not really trap.
Or you mean like the more laid back
groove hip hops, but they're also like trying to like get text in out of the beat, you know, like trying to switch it up, and I sometimes wonder, like, are they the trendsetters for a new kind of wave of hip hop, or is that just?
I think that's nothing. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
I think that it definitely, the popularity of it is different today, but I think that what is essentially being done, it's nothing that new crazy. It's like you can even trace it back to jazz, for instance. You could even say that some hip hop is like, it's essentially jazz in the way that, you know, how the way they, you know, like maybe like when they're freestyling, or the way they're trying to, the way they're saying certain like, words, not necessarily because of what they mean, but like how it fits in the
delivery,
in the
or
and,
something.
The delivery and the flow. It's very jazz, you know, and it's like and like how they have kind of a language of their own, like their kind of vocabulary. It's very much jazz in a way.
You see music as a genres as a vocabulary, like every genre has their different kind of vocabulary, and some overlap and some don't.
Definitely, there's definitely, like, I mean, if you look in jazz, like more like let's say bebop. It's, I don't know if you know much about the music, but I will say it sounds it sounds that way because like there's a language in it, and the musician, well, or the musicians that really know it well, they recognize that, and they can communicate with each other through that language. And I think the same goes for classical music, and I mean, it's like, why does certain music sound the same or sound similar to others? It's there's a shared language there, you know, a shared vocabulary.
Yeah, I get that. Maybe to elaborate on that vocabulary, do you think that you have different kind of musicians then? For example, a musician that can play, that know a lot of the vocabulary, all the words in the vocabulary, or a musician that can make thoughtful sentence with that vocabulary, or how do you see, of how would you rate music in that vocabulary sense? Like, is a good musician in your eyes somebody that knows how to make a coherent story with that vocabulary, or somebody that knows a lot of words, or the intonation, or the usage of those words?
Do
you understand the question?
Yeah, I think so. It's a hard question because it's, I mean,
personal, it's for you.
It's very personal. I mean, depends on what kind of musician you are, I think.
But if for you, what would you say? Like, you can even make this like literally a vocabulary in hip hop, you know? Like, is a good rapper somebody that uses a lot of words and can get them together, or is that somebody that makes a coherent story, or somebody that has like a funny intonation into it, or how do you see, what would you attribute more to music, you know, like feel more important about?
It's a hard question because it's so, I think it's very relative. I think a good, let's say, like a good hip hopper, it's also so very broad for me, because you have people who are, you know, kind of like an artist in their own right, and like they have a full picture around them, like maybe Kendrick Lamar, for instance. Like there's a story, and there's like a whole, you know, there's a whole image around him, and his music really reflects that. Is it better than, for instance, someone who just like is very good at freestyling and like really good at just delivering lines?
I know it's difficult to compare them, but I'm more asking about how you see, for example, for your own music. Would you see like having a full understanding of the vocabulary is more important, of being able to make concise sentences, like strophes of music
for
is
me,
more important?
For me, the vocabulary itself, or like how you stick with the vocabulary isn't very important for me. For me, you can.
You
Like,
don't have to know each note or each.
I am very much, like, I believe very much that you can play almost anything or say almost anything, but you just, the way that you deliver it makes everything. I
So
think.
for you, delivery is especially the important part.
For me, at least,
Okay,
yeah. For me,
I
just
wouldn't
the
have thought
execution
that.
of it, and like not just the delivery, but also like the full picture in which it sits. You know, the full context is much more important than what you're actually playing or what what you're
Okay.
saying.
That's interesting.
You know,
I would not have thought that about you, for you.
Mm.
Because like an artist, I would say like the music comes first, but now you're like more describing
But
that
that
experience.
is music as well.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying that you're more describing the experience that this music creates is more important than the actual music itself.
I think so.
Okay, interesting.
I think that you know, I also believe that not all music has to be understandable or you know, something that
Has
is
to connect or whatever.
It connects. I mean, not all music is gonna connect with everyone. You know,
definitely.
but that, again, this is like my own philosophy. So like there are musicians who are like, no, like pop music is the way, you know, because like pop music is music for the people, because everyone loves it, connects with most people. That's valid. It's not really how I think. I'm more in the way that's trying to get your own voice, and it's gonna connect with some people and not connect with others. But yeah, again, it does boil down for me to just the
overall
sound.
experience that somebody gets out of your music.
I would say so.
Okay.
Because like I mean, what's like, for instance, do you know the Kanye West, like the poopity scoop, like that thing? Yeah, like, I mean, it's a dumb text, you know. He's literally just doing poopity scoop, but the beat, I mean, it goes hard, you know. It's still like people put it on and just to like, this is hard, you know, even though he's just saying poopity scoop, and you can say, you know, the same thing with a lot of hip hop, like the Lil Yachty thing, like the I took the walk to Poland, like that thing.
I don't know.
It's like it was like a popular thing, but yeah, it's like there's not that much content there, but people vibe to it, you know.
Okay.
I do believe so.
No, I find it interesting that as an artist you do care more about how it's perceived and what you're actually.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you have like a crazy guitarist that does a crazy solo with just super technical and stuff, but it maybe doesn't sound as good as Poopity Scoop, and then you would be like, oh, that is less impactful for me than the Poopity Scoop music.
I mean, if it's crazy technical, but it
doesn't resonate.
If it doesn't like, if it's just technical to be technical, then there's not much there. But if it's, you know, it can be crazy technical, but maybe he's actually playing some stuff that, if like, maybe it fits well in the music, or maybe he's playing some stuff that are really unique, and it's like he's doing his own thing over it. I think it's valid, you know. But again, this is my philosophy, you know.
We're only talking about our own experiences, so
yeah. But again, it depends on context too, right? So, you know,
for example, on the center stage in Abdur or something, like if there is like a very technical thing, it would probably be like fucking amazing. Like, wow, this guy is playing live, all these notes together, and
if you're gonna see, Abdur, I don't know, or some great festival, if you're gonna see a crazy guitar solo, that's amazing. But I mean, it's there for a reason, you know. It's there because some people decide that this is you know, this sounds cool, or people are gonna like this shit, or and even what that person is playing is gonna affect, or like, I mean, the context is gonna affect what he's playing too, you know. You can't play too crazy shits, otherwise, you know, you have the risk of or, you know, you don't always want people to go like, that was weird, you know. I like it, but not all people.
What I'm getting from this is sometimes staying a bit more simple is more important than actually trying to get the most level out of it. Definitely. So in that sense, indeed, the range of your vocabulary, it doesn't matter that much at all. It's just the coherency and getting a feeling or an experience across is more important in music.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Oh, definitely, I can follow that.
I mean, I think even like the most popular pop music, or I mean, it's so broad, most popular, but like if you think about like
the top 10
your like your Billie Eilish or your Justin Bieber. I don't know. I'm just saying names, but like they all have like a certain vibe around them and like a big like a story and a like there's a full picture. You know what I mean? They're not just famous because oh, I make a fun song. You know what I mean? In a way, that's part of it, but there's always like a whole picture that is around them, you know, and that's what essentially.
Maybe a question then, especially for you then, because you sometimes substitute, I guess, for other people. Yeah. If you're like playing as a substitute, or you see somebody playing as a substitute, do you feel the same about the music, or is that like a total? It doesn't. It's not really his music, you know, like what I mean. Yeah. Is there a factor in that is also like authenticity of your own thing, or is that not something that?
That's a very fine line that I'm trying to balance. Find out. yeah, exactly. There's definitely, you know, if I'm gonna sub for someone like Natalia, for instance, I'm just saying. Like you know, and if I
you did that by the way,
so
shout out to Natalia.
Shout out Natalia, shout out Babel. So like if I do crazy shit on it, and maybe like I may turn the music into a certain vibe, because you know I kind of have some power to do that. I might not get called back, you know. There's a difference between being an artist and being like, you know, a working musician, you know. That's like, you definitely have to be mindful of, especially as a bass player, you have to be mindful of you know, the space that you're taking in, and the role that you're playing, and I do believe like everyone has their own flavor, and every bassist is gonna sound a little bit different, and that's just, I think that's
even substitutes that play somebody else's music will have their own influence into it, no matter what.
Yeah, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be better or worse. It's just, it can be different.
It's just different.
And like, you know, there's a lot of different ways you could play the same thing, but you can time it differently, and that makes a world of difference. But
then you're also playing in delivery and rhythm, I guess. So
just how you're playing certain things, the sound in which you're playing it. Again, like this is a
it's interesting because
it's a fine line.
Do you know like the experiments with Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and then they like switch it and they give it to you? I'm imagining, let's take 10 artists, they all play exactly like the same strophe. Would you be able to recognize or like identify which is a real one and who was substituting or whatever? Like,
I think
how much of that experience directly comes from the music, and how much is from the things you know, like what I mean?
I can usually, it's maybe a bit far to say, but I can usually, if I look at a band play, I can see in like 3 seconds if they're, you know, if they're musicians that really did their homework or not.
If they created the music, or it's just substituting, or do you mean?
I mean like if they, you know, really know what they're doing,
what they're playing.
Okay. Like if they, you know, and like how much experience they have, or like what part of it they, you know, have more attention to than other parts. It doesn't have to be like he's a bad or a good musician. It doesn't have to be like that. But
I guess that's like we talked about it before. I guess it's in the music industry. There's a lot of he's worse or better and this or that, and I understand that is not the way you should look at music. You cannot compare Kendrick Lamar to J. Cole. Like, they're both doing different things,
Absolutely.
trying to make a different experience for people, and that's just wrong to compare them.
Yeah.
Like,
But like, I mean, there is a certain bar of like skill, I think, that you like maybe not have to have, but maybe like should have if you want to be at certain levels. But at some point, if you cross that bar, it becomes all subjective, you know. And then there's always gonna be people being like, oh, that's not really my thing, what he's doing or she's doing, and other people that like it. So I mean, yeah, it's at some. I do think there is some kind of bar. If I don't think if your big ambition is to play with you know, with Shakira or with Justin Timberlake. I'm just saying like the biggest ones. I do think that like there are certain things that you have to know
technically, you know, like playing the chords.
Yeah, like technically and like just know how, and like the timing is a big thing. But again, like what I want to say, if you go above that,
then it's all about
it's
experience and how it feels for somebody.
Yeah, at least that's what I think. Yeah.
And when do you feel like you reached the bar or you passed the bar? Is there like a point in your life that you're like, now I feel like I know technically enough about it, I know how to play, I know like if somebody gives me a partiture, how do you...
partiture? Like sheet music, partition, you could say. Sheet music, you could say, yeah.
Would you be like, okay, I can understand this if I put myself to it, but at what point did you feel like, okay, I've reached this point that I can now start focusing more on what is the experience I want to give, what is the feeling I want to give to people?
I don't think that's necessarily like one moment.
I think it's moment.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's always very gradual. I'm still improving. There's still tons of things that I feel like I should work on. But it's all gradual, I would say. But there's definitely.
I think you definitely passed the bar, right? Like you.
I think so
if
too.
Natalia asks you to fall in, you learn it for 2 weeks and then you can.
I think so too. Yeah, but yeah, there was definitely a point where I like listened to a recording of some show, and I'm thinking like, okay, this sounds pretty good, you know. And there's also been times where I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, you review your own stuff always.
I maybe I shouldn't as much as I do, but yeah, I do.
Okay.
Definitely, you know.
Interesting.
Sometimes.
No, I think that's
not
very
always
valuable.
Yeah, sometimes it's very valuable, and I think sometimes it can also be a little bit toxic toward yourself. Because sometimes you do like zoom in on certain things that in the big picture doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, or in that moment was just a bit inevitable that you played it that way or something.
Exactly. Or just in the like a moment.
You had a bad night of sleep and then you had to play, and then obviously you're just gonna play a bit less. Depending on the vibe, I guess also, but statistically a bit less.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, there's to an extent, but yeah, like recording yourself is actually, because it's like if you're recording yourself speaking, you know, like we're doing, you know what I was like.
Definitely had it in the beginning.
Exactly.
I didn't like it.
It sounds different. It sounds way different than.
But I never liked my own voice, and then at some day I'm just like.
And then you stop caring. Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. But you also, I think you, at least in music, you do learn like, okay, because if you're just playing by yourself, you miss a lot of things. You can definitely say like, oh, I played well, but then when you listen to it, like then you know like, oh shit, like this,
that or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, interesting. I don't do that often enough, so I think that's a really good skill of yours that you do.
I mean, I do it from a musical standpoint too, right? So I don't know how, like what you would do, you know what I mean?
No, I would re-listen my podcast, but I don't do that often enough, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I don't know how. Maybe there is some benefit in that.
Definitely, I think. Yeah. I know for sure there's benefit in that.
Like for instance, maybe like, oh, I could have kept the conversation going at that moment in a different way.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
for me, like if I'm talking about what I could improve upon, it's knowing where to cut off the conversation and go back to the main question or something. Like I go on these tantrums all the time, like we are doing now. We're talking. We didn't even get to the second thing, you know.
Yeah,
and we're already
you know.
talking for half an hour about the sound of music.
Yeah, but I think there are some valid things that we talked about.
Yeah,
so.
definitely. Like I just use this as a
Sure.
prelude to something better,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. But yeah, actually, I do think there are a lot of things in music, and especially, well, for instance, like I have through learned like how to learn certain things. Just for instance, like this, listening to yourself play, you could do the same with your voice, with podcasts.
yeah.
I think a lot of it you can definitely there's a lot
Have
of
to learn
parallels.
it, you know.
I think there's a lot of parallels. I mean, like
Definitely.
it's
We're both doing something to entertain others also, you know, like
that too, yeah. But I also mean in the sense that how do you learn the language the best, you can open your books, but you learn it the best if you immerse yourself and surround yourself by people who speak the language. And the same goes with music. I definitely I went to the Kunstseminare and I had friends around me that played music, that I played music with them, and it's also it's not all from in my room. Not all my skills are from my room,
yeah.
It's also you have to. There's definitely a lot of parallels. You have to surround yourself, I think.
And maybe to go a bit deeper on that one.
Can you hold that thought? Because I have to pee very.
I also have to pee. So let's do a quick break then.
Quick break. Okay.
Look.
Everyone, get your snacks.
I'm gonna do the production thing.
Get your popcorn ready.
Look at it. Alright, we're already back.
That was needed.
So my question was gonna be, is there like, I guess it depends very much on your friends, I guess, but do you feel like there is enough like interaction between the music you and your friends make? Like if you have something that you make that you send it to a bunch of guys and they listen to it and they're like, I like that part or that part not. Is there something like that, or you feel like you maybe would benefit from having more of those interactions?
I'm definitely looking for more people that I can actually have common ground with
Yeah.
musically, because there's definitely that. I mean, I do have friends that we have more of a again. At the end of the day, it's a matter of taste. You know, it's like it's gonna be beneficial if you work with people that have a similar taste. You know, because you can, you know, we both hear the certain music with, you know, we both like the stuff that you know, let's say I make some stuff, and then if I like it, then there's a chance that that person will like it too, but maybe they have a different vision on it. Yeah. So
does that mean that the people you're becoming friends with as musicians have similar tastes as you, or do you also feel like you can be very good friends with a bass player that doesn't see eye to eye with you on music? Like he hate no, not really hate.
He hates my guts.
He hates the music you make, but
we're
he's
just
a good guy.
we're just trying to get one up each other all the time.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of my musical friends, or the one I hang out with a lot, we do have
similar tastes.
Yeah, because
obviously.
Because a lot, with some people, I can also talk about music too, in a similar way. But then, you know, some other people have completely different views on certain music, and sometimes it's also refreshing to hear that. You know, it's like a different side of it. You know.
Yeah, I think that was what I was alluding in bits with the question. Like, sometimes somebody has a different opinion about your music, and doesn't mean that you have to follow their opinion, but it can sometimes, I think, be valid too. Because I think that's, for me, in my own head, the biggest argument of why I should not review my own things, because I did my own thing. I very much would like, I always am, I always say it, content or happy with how things went, and I'm maybe not as critical as you are on myself, I guess. But that's something for myself, I would say. So that's why I think for me it's more valuable that I can also share things with other people, even if they want it or not. It's up to them, you know. Like, that's the whole beauty of social media and YouTube, I guess, for me. But that they also express their opinions, and like, that part I did like and that I did not like. And
I think I'm just so critical of my own stuff, because I'm trying to, you know, I'm very much into the whole musician thing and the musicality thing, and that's what I want to improve on. So I think for you the same way. If, for instance, if you wanna, like, what do you wanna improve on this whole podcast thing? Do you wanna be a better speaker and like a better podcaster? Because, you know, it's a skill on itself, you know. And I think then it's like there is a benefit to, you know, listening. Well, not, you don't have to constantly listen to your own stuff, but like honing in on like certain things, like, oh, okay, that part, I maybe, I don't know, I maybe fumbled over my words, or I'm just saying, there's always, but I think it depends on what you're trying to do, right? If you're like, I don't care about being a better speaker, I just want to get my ideas out, sure, that's fine. But then your ideas will be better. Well, ideas will be not better, but you know, will come more over concise, better if you're a good speaker. Yeah, they will sound better if you're a good speaker, you know. So it's, you know.
Do you think it's necessary for an artist, for example, to be critical about themselves, or you think that's not a necessity?
I mean, I think every artist that's serious about their stuff is gonna be critical about their own stuff.
It's inherent to getting good is to understand what you're good at.
I think so. I think if you're not critical, if everything you make is good, then you're not moving forward much. But again, there's like, there has to be a balance there, because if you're always only critical about yourself, like you're only, you know,
but critical in my eyes can also be good, you know. You can be critical about something and say, I really did that well, you know. I don't think that's an ego thing. Sure. That's just being critical about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a thing you have to kind of do if you want to improve. I mean, and if you don't have anything, if you feel like everything is good, then I think that's either you're at a place where you're very much like, this is where I want it to be, the skill level, or maybe you don't know enough about the art of
where
it.
the bar lays, or where the spectrum is, how high you can go.
For instance, if you listen to a lot of someone like Joe Rogan, for instance, then you know, like that could be a bar, you know. It doesn't have to be this thing that's up in the air. It can be like a very concrete, like, oh yeah, I want to be as good as a podcaster as Joe Rogan, and then that's a point of to
yes,
to
that's
go
a
forward.
good point to make.
Same as you can be like, oh, I want to be a good singer like Michael Jackson, you know. And then you have a bar. You have someone to look up to. You can analyze them. You know, that's the same way with music or other.
Yeah, I think for myself it's a bit something I should work on, definitely. Like, good point you made here. So I think we're gonna skip the evolution part, or you wanna go into it?
I mean, we could go on for a while, but there's probably some good stuff in there.
What is contemporary era? What does that mean?
It's like like Hayden Dachs, like modern classical music and stuff.
Modern classical music.
Yeah, which again is very broad, but
is this kind of the way it evolved? Because folk music is like third step. Is that something like?
I mean,
or is that just the definition of what is folk music?
I don't think folk music necessarily like, oh yeah, this is the folk music era. Although I don't know. Because
rock and roll definitely had like a given era, because nobody listens really rock and roll anymore, like, to
that's
be honest.
Thing. Yeah, that's true.
So I guess this is kind of but then pop music.
But then
like, it doesn't matter.
Like there's you can I can talk for 3 hours about like what jazz is, you know. That's a whole different thing on its own. So like rock and roll, I don't know that much about, I have to say. So
this is maybe all a good question on insight. What do you think is the impact of streaming on the music industry and artists?
Yeah, it's a big topic. I have to be honest and say that I also have limited understanding of it. Because
I know you've expressed a bit about this before.
Yeah.
So maybe you can, like,
sure.
You were telling about people that doesn't try to experiment, go out of the box anymore, and people just wanna make a sound that already exists, kinda, you know, like people are not that inventive anymore. I think that was the kind of message you were.
I mean, yeah, it depends. I think it's twofold. I think that on one hand, like streaming and the whole social media aspect has really opened the doors for a lot of people. You know, for people like me or you, we can get our music online, whether it's good music or bad or whatever. We can get our music online pretty easily, and like
available for people.
Yeah, obviously, like how much is gonna be seen by other people is a different story, but it's there. You know, you can put it out there, and then it's out there. Whereas, you know, back in the day, I mean, I didn't grow up back in the day, so I only know of what I know. But
back in 1980,
yeah, exactly. Back then, you had to, you know, like labels were a much bigger thing. They still are, but back then, like, okay, yeah, how am I gonna get my music out? Yeah, probably, you know, try to get on the radio, and like, oh yeah, that do, oh, gotta get through a label maybe, like, you know, things like that, and they have much more leverage back then than now.
So you think definitely that improved for the individual artist to being able to put out your own music and get to the audience. Actually, I think it doesn't mean you will necessarily have an audience, but the ability to get there.
I think that there is more ability to do more unique stuff and actually like have an audience, for even if it's just 2 people.
Okay.
At least they're gonna hear your stuff. I do think that, because I mean, yeah, again, I don't have that much knowledge about how music used to be. I know that labels had a big part of it, and that, you know, at some point it's like, oh yeah, I mean, we're so far into the whole industry thing, that everything, like just capitalism in general, like everything is everyone is trying to optimize every aspect, right? Yeah, like how much, like okay, how much money can we squeeze out of this, you know? And I think that has definitely changed. I mean, there's because streaming, I mean Spotify for instance, who decides what's on the front page, you know? It's not just because Taylor Swift is pop. I mean, I'm just using a name.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no.
It's not just because this person is everyone is popular and they all look that person up. It's like, I mean, there are some strings being pulled.
Yeah.
But then fuck, where I was going with this.
Do you feel like the record labels still have as much influence over those things? For example, pulling the strings
so.
and for, I don't know, but maybe you know people that got to a record label and they are able to get into certain areas more easily, or
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
they still have a lot of influence.
They still have a part to play for sure.
Okay.
But there are successful artists that also are more independent and doing their own thing, and without that's a thing too now. So that's just, it's kind of twofold.
Yeah.
I know where I was gonna go with this, with the optimizing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have noticed it's shifting more, not just music. Like everything is, they try to shift to short form content,
Yeah.
And I do notice like a lot of popular songs are like the perfect TikTok song, like that's
before
kind of what
it was
is.
3 minutes, and now it's
It's
indeed
like
just
a
15 seconds of good
Exactly.
music that is popping, and then they can
Exactly.
snip that. And
it's all like the short form thing, right? The TikToks and the
I usually
the
have that,
reels.
like I have this TikTok and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, this music sounds kind of funky or interesting, and then I listen to the whole song and it's like, it's a shit song, like
Mhm.
only indeed those 10 seconds or something are a bit good, that fits a narrative or a
Yeah.
feeling very well, but the other 2 minutes and a half are like basically shit.
Yeah, but again, like this is like a whole different thing. Is like, do you look at music as an art form, as a way of this person expresses themselves in this way, and like there's this art piece,
Mhm.
or is it like a function? Is it like, oh yeah, this is made for reels, or this is made for clothing shops that they can put it on in the
Yeah.
background. It's kind of that. I do think that a lot of popular music, or like, is definitely maybe it's not always made for that, but I think there's always like an aspect of it. Because if you wanna, let's say you wanna
Is
put
that
your
not similar to what we were talking about, the frameworks? Like,
Mm.
we have the Western framework, and in that Western framework there is the elevator music framework and the TikTok
Yeah.
framework, and everybody
Sure.
is already
Yeah.
trying to fit into as much boxes as possible.
Yeah,
I think.
because I was gonna say, like, if you wanna put your music on the radio, you're already by definition just limited in a lot
by
of ways.
sounds and
like
delivery.
the stuff that I make, like it's gonna be a while before you're gonna hear that on the radio, or at least like in a high rotation.
Yeah.
It's like it's like specific parameters that are adhered to when they're making it, that allow it to be played on the music, and that's like a gatekeeping thing, you could say. But yeah, it's kind of it's
Well, it's not really like that somebody or something is gatekeeping it. It's more about, does it fit the framework, I guess, like we were talking about. Like, if we are gonna play music here or in China, the framework is not there, to play this music.
But yeah, of course, but like, who decides what
What the
okay,
frame
this
is,
music
yeah.
is perfect for the radio, for Stubru. I'm just saying something, like, who decides that? And like, someone decides that.
I think
You know what I mean?
it's more of an action reaction kind of thing. Like, in every framework, people are gonna experiment with the music or whatever, or the entertainment. I don't care about any, like, just any skill or any art form. People are gonna experiment, and they're gonna put that in that framework, and if that resonates with the framework, people are enjoying it. For example, with radio, it's very easy. Like, you put on a song, if people leave your station, then you're not gonna put that song on anymore, you know? And I think it's not that people actively gatekeep it. I think it's more about how is it perceived by the people that are listening to that framework, or for example, TikTok. Like, sometimes people will try to make a new TikTok with a new song, and if that is a funny TikTok with that song connected to it, then it suddenly pops, you know, and then it's a TikTok song. But before that, it was just a normal song.
Yeah, but you know, if you keep optimizing it, and like keep like everything in these boxes of this is how it is, then you're leaving less and less room for experimentation and for things to actually evolve. You know, if you pop music on the radio, not necessarily anything against it. There's pop music that I love, but like, it sounds like through the last 10 years, like I would say it sounds pretty similar. Like, it hasn't evolved that much, you know. I would say, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also very difficult.
That's not to say that it's bad or good, but it's just like, that's kind of what it is. And if you're, and I think if you're not leaving any room for experimentation, or if you're not trying stuff out, if everything is just in these, okay, it has to have this percentage of revenue,
I think that's a
and
bigger problem. People want to fit in a certain frame, and not the other way around, that the frame fits the music, you know, like people make the music to fit in the frame, and not make music and the frame can fit on the music. You know what the distinction I'm making?
I think so. I think it's like
it's like something what I do with my job today. Like, I have to decide priorities for an alarm. Is it a high priority? Is it a low, medium priority? And usually you do that by looking at the process. How bad is it if it goes wrong, whatever. The point I'm making is that we're trying to get these priorities, and people are already looking at how is this priority gonna play out in the setting, like in the control room. How is it gonna be annoying, or is it gonna be okay? And that's like working backwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're already looking at how it's gonna be perceived, instead of figuring out what it is.
Based on all the statistics and
based on this guy doesn't like that alarm, or this is gonna be too much nuisance, and that is not really how you look at what is necessary. How are you making and I think that's a bit similar with music. Like, people are trying to look like, how is my music that I want to make gonna fit into a 15-second TikTok, and how I'm gonna optimize it for that, indeed. And I think that's a bit more the problem. I don't necessarily agree with the framework being the problem, because either way there are always gonna be frameworks. People from China are not gonna have the Western framework. That's just how it's always gonna be. And I think that's a bit of a pitfall for some artists. I'm not saying that they want to fit in the music in the frame, and not the frame on the music. And I think, but I also had a question, but I forgot about it.
Yeah, I think that's the big distinction for like is this artist doing it to, you know, try to reach as many people, and like try to, I don't want to say make money, but I guess, like, you know,
at the end of the day, it's on everybody's mind a bit.
Or is this artist actually trying to do something genuine? I think that you can definitely see what they're making, and there's I do think it's a spectrum. You can have a bit of both, I think, but you can definitely see where it's like, oh yeah, this is
that's why I like Drake a lot, and I'm not just fanboying him, but he makes this kind of popping music, he makes his TikTok music, but in his album he also has like experimental things. I'm not saying I like those songs. I'm saying I appreciate that he's not just following the framework. You know, he's actually trying different.
I have to say, I haven't. I know too little of his music, but
I know it. Yeah. A lot of people just know the Billboard songs of him. Exactly. You know, like, oh, there's a new album which is gonna be on the Billboard, and that song they will listen to.
Yeah, because that's my main opinion of him is popular stuff. So it's not.
But. This last album is a good example of that. I don't like it too much.
The Certified Lover Boy, or does he have a new one?
He has a new one.
He has a new
2023.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't checked it
I
out
don't
yet.
know if it's on my first.
I
For
thought-
all the dogs.
Okay, I haven't listened to it, but I think the Certified Lover Boy, I thought that was, it sounded, it just sounded to me like every other.
I get that.
hip-hop
I'm not saying
thing
that,
these days,
that
but
he's always doing that, but especially now, I think he is at some point that he's like, I think maybe some level he derived from what we were talking about, that he's making music to fit a framework and not making music which a framework could fit. But now he's back, I think, like, I've reached everything I want to reach. I'll make those popping songs, like one
Yeah.
or two, and I'll put them on my album, but I also have like 10, 20 other songs that is just for him,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he was like, oh, this is good shit.
yeah.
And I think that's a big pitfall for a lot of artists, that, like you said, that
Everything
they want
has
to fit
be-
something, and they are already envisioning it where it's gonna be played, and they're trying to optimize to how can I make this more an elevator music, or how can I make this more TikTok music, and it takes away from the experience that it gives to themselves and to
Yeah.
others, I think. And I
It
think
takes
that's
away from, is this good music?
yeah.
And it can be good for radio or TikTok or whatever, but is it just good?
Because that comes back to what does music mean to us.
Yeah.
It's the experience it creates, not the actual sound of it.
Mm.
That was where we started,
Yeah.
And I think that's I think that's where some artists are deriving or
Yeah.
going apart.
But I will say the experience, I'm thinking of it very broad, right? Like the experience of music, like it can also be as general as just like, oh, this makes me interested in, or like, oh, this sounds cool, or like, oh, this oh, I like this piece of music is already an experience for me. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I like to put this on because it's calm, you know what I mean? That,
For me,
there's a big
it's,
distinction
for me it's twofold indeed. Like there is music that I'm like, it's interesting,
Yeah.
but that's also usually music that I'm not gonna be banging in the car, Like
Yeah.
I'll listen to it once, it's like, interesting, and then
Yeah.
I put it away. But
Yeah.
that's not really.
But that's
don't
that's
know.
for I wanted to make that clear because that's like a big distinction for me. Like, I obviously like it's what I do and I'm into music and I always listen to music that I just love no matter how weird it is. But yeah, I don't really do go like, oh yeah, that's car music, or oh yeah, that's music for in the background.
You don't?
I mean, well, sometimes sure, but I'm not like most, like 99% of my music listening is I'm listening to this music.
Yeah. I think we had
Yeah.
this is like I have a lot of
Yeah.
background music and just for working or something, and I put some calm
So
music
for
on
me, I prefer to
actively
to just-
listen to
yeah,
the music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be quiet, or it be
Oh,
something
really?
or something
Okay.
that I just really like and I'm into it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you listen music when you're like gaming or stuff?
Yeah, I used to, but usually, I mean, depends on the game, but yeah, when I'm playing Counter-Strike, I'm not putting on music. But yeah, it's like when I used to play RuneScape, like sure, yeah, I'll listen. But then
you're more actively
but that's
listening.
also because that's also because it's possible.
I was
to
trying to get the
yeah.
bait here.
No,
but
see what
you're
I mean?
playing
Yeah.
and you're listening. Like you can't do both at the same
Yeah.
time. But then you use RuneScape, so.
No, I can definitely do both at the same time. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes I'm going out, I'm at a bar or something, and there's like
you're
a
too
song.
actively listening.
Yeah, and a
I
song,
get
and
it.
I'm like, oh, that's a nice song, and I'm.
Or you,
Yeah.
or other way, like you're at a bar and everybody's having a good time. You're like, fuck, this song sucks,
Yeah.
Like put it on the next song, and nobody's even listening to the music.
Yeah, well, it has to be a really bad song for it to be.
To
have,
get that
to
response.
really be like, oh, fuck this, but
But I wanted to come
It
back
happens.
to an earlier statement you made.
Yeah.
That you felt like pop music hasn't changed a lot in the last years. And I was
I'm talking about the really like at the top, like your Taylor Swifts or your, like, the big ones. I'm really making myself.
I was
look bad when
waiting
say
for
it,
what
but-
other big ones.
Yeah,
you were
but
gonna-
you, like, I don't know, like
No,
your Sam Smith, you know.
I think it's true.
Like what's popular these days.
But I'm also wondering where
Feel
this is
old.
going then, because I was talking with Zoe about this. Like, what do kids these days listen to? Like, we had K3 and stuff, and how do they know? Kids, blah blah blah, kids. What's in the
like Spring and stuff.
Yeah, no, it was like Animal Kids or whatever, like some random K3, but more for the Americans also.
I think I know what you mean, but I cannot.
I cannot say that. I don't. It slips my mind.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm just thinking, like, we were listening to them like when we were young, and children these days still listen to them. Is there like no new kids music coming out? Like, it kind of fits into your narrative or in your idea that things have not really changed so much in the pop scene lately, like last 20 years, usually.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, things have changed, but like generally, like structurally, it's pretty much the same.
And do you have any idea of if that was before too? Like, for example, in the 90s or the 80s, that pop music was also this similar, or like, because I'm thinking maybe it's like in kind of periodically, since like every 25 years, just generally maybe the career of some persons, when they have at the back of their career.
I think I don't know, but I think one thing is for sure. I think that these days it's more about the individual artist and like the image that they put out. I think it's more about that, you know.
But I think what I'm alluding to is that, for example, Taylor Swift has a certain image, and I think a lot of other artists overlap that image a bit, or complement it, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
But if, for example, Taylor Swift is gonna go, she's like, oh fuck this career, I'm done with it, then I think the whole scene kind of collapses a bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some pillars of music people or industries, and I feel like at some point they will change because just people grow older. And for example, rock and roll is like a very good, it was pop back in the day. Rock and roll was the pop music.
Yeah. I'm not sure 100%. I don't know as much about it, but like one thing that I recently heard on a podcast is that more again, like, this is like so just what I heard, but it's that music is more and more they're starting to realize, like, okay, like this new stuff, it's great, but like things like the Beatles, you know, like that stuff, Rolling
People are
Stones,
going back to the old.
It keeps selling, you know, like at the end of the day, like that stuff keeps selling, and you know, with the advent of AI and like deepfake and like that whole thing, I think it's only gonna be more and more like call back to that. And instead of like instead of that, it just keeps moving forward.
Just sounds like old school RuneScape to me, you know, like you know what I mean? Like, it evolved, and then people were like, but wait, I don't like this new version, I want to go back to the old. And at some point we're also gonna grow old and die. I don't think there are like any new players really on old school RS, you know. And that's how I see a bit with the Beatles. Like, sure, we grew, we know them, but I'm not buying those records anymore. I guess the people buying them are like 40, 50 years old or something, you know, like.
I don't know. I honestly, I should know what the kids are listening to these days, but I don't know. But I'm assuming that
TikToks,
you know, like for instance TikToks and stuff, and I think that there's definitely something there, because it's also when I'm saying Beatles or Rolling Stones or whatever, or all those legendary bands, it's not only like the music, it's only the music that people regard as good, it's also just it's a whole culture, and it's like a whole callback to a different time, it's like a whole sound, there's just a whole culture around it.
But just yeah, I get that point. It's
Yeah.
like I say, it's old school RuneScape to me. It's a
Yeah.
nostalgic feeling of when times were better, maybe, like, you know.
Yeah.
But I
Maybe.
believe at some point I don't see the kids nowadays gonna buy Rolling Stones in 10 years. I
Yeah.
just don't see that. That's just
It's
my
possible. I don't know much. I don't know enough to say that. I don't know
No,
enough about it to
just
say that they
feeling,
will or
but-
will not. But
You think
it's just
music is
something I
gonna devolve and maybe a bit, like, go back to its origin maybe more, that we evolve too much, or what do you think?
man, it's really, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's honestly, I'm gonna be honest and say that I genuinely I don't know, because there's just so much things happening. There's, TikTok has been big for a while now, but like AI is coming up, and I mean,
Yeah, it's
I
an
haven't
whole
heard-
other rabbit hole.
I haven't heard too much AI music yet that's actually passable, but who knows? Like next year, maybe it's there.
Yeah, I think there was like a Drake song that
yeah,
he
yeah,
actually
I know.
copyrighted. Like, dude, you cannot use my voice
Yeah.
to do these things.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
And that's an whole topic on itself. But
Yeah,
that's
But I
it's
honestly
kind of
like, I
frightening,
don't know.
you know. Like,
Yeah.
we're just gonna recycle voices and sounds and
Mhm.
not try anything new anymore, or
Yeah.
you know, like that's it seems like it's a bit going there.
Mhm.
People are like you say, optimizing. Like, why should Drake put in millions of dollars to go to a studio when an AI can do this in 5 minutes of training or
Yeah,
so?
yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, just
Yeah,
sounds
exactly.
just doesn't sound like it's.
But
It doesn't sound like it's gonna move away from that anymore. Like, people are gonna gravitate towards the cheaper things, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, generally, I think, like, even if it's super niche, like, there's always an audience for, like, live music or not, or just music that's more, more in a certain art form or whatever. I don't think that 100% of the population listens to
No,
Drake.
no. No, it's,
I do
yeah.
think there's something valid to be said about that. I also heard like another thing, where like another podcast, this musician was saying, and he was also not sure, but it's like just like a positive way of thinking about is like as from a musician standpoint is like, okay, if everything, if all the money in music is in AI and pop and whatever, then there's gonna be less and less people in the industry that are only doing it for money, and then the people that are actually doing it because they have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
that's the ones that are gonna stay behind, left behind. But again, that's just someone else's positive take on it. So I don't know if that's true, but I like to.
No, I think there is some
it's-
validity
yeah.
to it.
I like. I mean, it's some positive thing. So it's like.
I think that sense that thought comes back to the framework thing. Like, AI is gonna be its own framework. What is gonna be well for AI to produce different songs that people like, and I think, like we said before, people are gonna want to make music that fits the frame, and indeed it leaves the people that want to make music and then see which frames fits gonna be a smaller pool, you know, like. I think that's a similar thing in that sense. So he's right about that, how I perceive it, of course. That the people that are genuinely interested in music will stay, and it will be a pool, and it will maybe get a bit smaller, but it's generally good for people that actually want to do live audiences.
I hope so. I don't know.
Because I don't see somebody going in front of Rock Werchter and putting on a computer with AI audio, you know, like, I don't see that yet happening.
I mean, I don't know.
On parties, yeah, but
On Tomorrowland,
On-
for sure.
but they're already doing
Werchter
that.
is maybe
They're
different,
already
yeah.
doing that.
Exactly. Werchter is maybe different. Yeah, that's one thing that's what I like to tell myself, that that live music, it's there, it's
Gonna
there's
stay.
it's a market because of the live aspect, but again, I don't know, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, apparently back in the 80s, like when synthesizers used to really become a thing, and like drum machines and like and stuff, like that back then. Apparently back then, like musicians like me were like, oh no,
It's gonna take
my
over.
job is
Yeah.
gone, and for a part of it, it was true. But live music is still existing in maybe less than before, but it's still there. But yeah, I think that was the AI of back
Yeah, I
then
think
for
that's
musicians.
that's
That was
very
like
true.
the big AI, yeah. And yeah, DJs, like just the concept of a DJ. Like I think a lot of music have lost musicians have lost jobs because of just DJs, just the concept of just, oh yeah, I'm
Do
coming
you
over
think
and
it
I
will
press
die
play.
out then one day? Like
Live
we're
music,
we're
or
talking about the evolution now and how each century or whatever, each period, a certain aspect of music is being optimized
Yeah.
to be easier or more accessible or more frequent distribute. Do you think at some point all those aspects from what an artist makes an artist will be outsourced to these different things, and then what remains is basically just somebody that presses play, or how do you see that?
I think depends on the artist too, but
You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
think so, yeah.
for example, with the
talking about
drums.
live or
For example, with the drums, take as an example that you are a band of 5 and you had one drummer in there, and
Yeah.
one day you're like, wait, we don't have to pay this guy anymore, we got this drum set. And not 100% of the bands is gonna do that, but maybe 60% or so.
you mean like, oh yeah, we don't need that.
Statistically, we're like moving towards less people and less.
You mean like, oh, we don't need a drummer if we can put the drums in the DJ in the
Yeah, or
press
like
play.
that, yeah.
I mean that's already a thing. So
You think it, like that was a question, you think we're
Yeah.
going more towards that, or you'd feel like people are also like gravitating a bit more against to the live action?
I think that has been a thing for a while now. So I think that's just the live music aspect. I think that what makes live music great is the musicians and like the whole full experience of it. That's why would a big artist pay musicians if they can just use a DJ? Sometimes they use a DJ, but
Yeah.
but sometimes
But
they
that's
have
what I'm meaning,
a
like
band for a
maybe
reason.
40% and 60% has a DJ then.
Yeah,
But
but
over time, maybe that percentage will go the other way, like 10% is playing live and 90% has a DJ. And
I think that live music has its place. I think that it's great because of what it is, and but I do think that maybe there is something to be said about like how accessible it is. I do think that there won't be as much opportunities to play live as there used
but
to
just
be.
from a financial standpoint, I think, like,
Mm.
take for example Tomorrowland and Rockwerchter. Like, Rockwerchter has to pay full bands of people, Tomorrowland has to pay one DJ.
Yeah.
Just pure money wise, it already seems
Yeah,
like
definitely.
a whole different ball game,
Definitely. Oh yeah, that definitely, yeah. That's
So I'm not
Yeah.
trying to scare you, but in my
but this is
what
very
I am
valid.
feeling is like every aspect of music is getting
But still,
optimized, like you said.
that's nothing new. The DJ thing. That's
No,
nothing new.
it's
though.
just with the AI stuff
Yeah.
now. Like, it takes away the creativity of the artist. It doesn't have to be himself anymore. Like, you can just put all your recordings into an AI and he can find 20
Yeah.
songs that might pop for you.
But I mean, yeah, the music that I listen to it because someone created something interesting, and not.
But then
yeah,
then you're,
again, that's my taste. So
then it's more about the authenticity then of the music instead of the
Mhm.
experience,
for me it is, yeah.
because like there can be AI at least what I believe. I think there can be AI music, just like the Pepsi and the Coke experiment, that you at some point will not know anymore. Is this made by someone real? Is this just AI music? I think it will become so indistinguishable, just like how virtual reality is moving in that direction. Like, whoa, this is getting too real. And I believe that will impact not just AI, but all these aspects will impact the live performance area, or like
I mean,
environment
I see
a
it
lot.
much more likely on like just songs, like just like streaming or radio or whatever. But as far as like a live thing, I don't know.
Yeah, but even songs, it's taking away revenue from a live
Yeah.
band, you know, like, and
Yeah.
also like the example Tomorrowland Rockwerchter, like, at some point Rockwerchter will be like, maybe we should do more cheaper things, I would
Yeah.
say, that doesn't
Okay, yeah,
require too
but
much.
I mean, people buy the tickets for a reason, you know.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't think
I
those
think if
people will
you're-
go away.
I think they're like they're a brand too, you know. If they purely look at it financially and they go like, oh yeah, actually we should just hire DJs, then the Rockwerchter becomes a different thing.
Definitely
you know,
true.
just-
I'm not saying
yeah.
it's indeed not saying that this will die out. I'm not saying that. I'm
Mhm.
just saying every technology or every aspect is being optimized, as you said, and it's chipping away a bit from what an artist has to do. And in that sense, the artist is becoming devalued in a sense. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's less.
But I think that's
The artist
I
is-
think that's been a thing for a while now.
but also for other jobs. So it's not only artists, I think, but
Mm.
in general, I think a lot of aspects about what makes you a good artist, why should people pay for you a lot, or why should people pay for me, or why should people pay for entertainment, it's all externalized to different optimizing areas, and those are getting the money and the
Yeah.
things. And I think, just like in my profession, maybe the pool of money that goes to directly to the artist or to me
Oh,
is,
yeah.
is only gonna shrink, I think.
Oh, for sure. But that's again, that's like that's happening been happening for a while. But yeah, maybe even more. I do think that yeah.
But
it's,
you already
the
accepted that it's
the
not like
people-
something new for you.
the people like the actual industry, music industry thing, the whole music business thing. If you take away like the actual art form of it,
Mhm.
it's all built up for the people at the top to make the most money and for the artists to make as least money as possible. That's why so many artists are going independent, because they're getting fucked
Yeah,
over.
but that was where, in my opinion, streaming was different. It was meant for a way, and you can argue that
It's
there's still a top, but
it's different, but
it eliminates a lot of layers that otherwise would have taken money from the artist.
that's
So
true, but it's twofold, because yeah, on one hand, if you're independent, if you're streaming, sure, like that money comes to you, but then first of all, how much money are you making per stream? It's nothing. It's like peanuts. I think it's like depends on the platform, but on Spotify I think it's like a third of a euro cent per stream. So you know,
Okay.
you can do the math. But then if you know, let's say you're working with a producer, okay, now there's a certain percentage of your revenue that goes to that guy, or even on a bigger scale, like the label. Just if you're with a label and you're like, you have a certain deal going on, whatever your deal is, like they're gonna take a good chunk out of it, out of the streaming, and which is already just like a tiny small
Yeah.
amount, and people aren't really buying albums anymore like way back before streaming.
Definitely, like,
So
nobody's vinyl is a bit on the uprise again,
Yeah.
but that's just, like we said, that small pool that
It
wants
is.
this nostalgic feeling, and I
I
like
think
the
I
word
might-
you used.
yeah.
I think it was callback feeling. or-
callback, yeah, sure. I think it's not just like callback, but I think it's also I think it's valid because it's also just a different experience. I think it like even if it's not a callback, it's something different than just opening up Spotify and like putting on a playlist and bam, the music plays. You know, it's a different interaction. So if you're really into the music, it actually has, you know,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
you can literally hold the music. You know, I think that there is a psychological thing where it's
Yeah,
different
okay,
if you
but then
hold
you
it,
then you
know?
can go far. I can hold my computer and it stores the transistors in a certain
Okay, but
way.
you know
and-
what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you have a PDF of a book or if you have like a nice book in your hand, it's different.
It's
you know, it's
different,
psychologically, it's a whole, and even especially maybe if you don't care about
but that's
the
for
medium,
us
that's
because
one
we
thing.
still know books and vinyl. But
Yeah, but I
kids
mean,
growing up these days, they only
That's
know
true,
they only
but-
know screens, you know.
that's true. Yeah, but I mean, time will tell. I guess.
Teachings, kids just get iPads in the class, you know. Like how absurd is that?
Yeah,
You don't have to carry books anymore. You just get an iPad.
yeah, but yeah, there's things to say about it on both ends. I think I can't.
Yeah, we
I
can't be
speak for
sure where
that.
it goes to, and it's just yeah. Sometimes I'm a bit of a doomsday thinker in certain
Yeah.
of those aspects of life. Like
Yeah, I think.
doomsday, maybe it's a bit negative, but like I don't see it going away from that. That's what I'm.
No, me neither. No, that ship has sailed for sure. Like I think streaming is also, I think it's gonna stay low revenue for artists. You know, I think it's gonna, it's not gonna get much better at that. But I do think there's a reason that vinyl is back on the rise. You know, but 10 years ago vinyl wasn't as big as it was
No,
now.
no, no,
You know,
I
I think
know.
I think there's a bigger reason for it than just like 40-year-old 50-year-old people being like, oh, this is just like how it used to be.
No, that's true because I never had vinyl and I bought now
Yeah.
my first plate. So
How do you like it?
I like vinyl a lot.
Yeah.
Like you said,
Cool.
it's because you're doing something, not just pressing
Yeah,
play
yeah.
and
Yeah, and you have the cover art. It's all big, and you like can look at
Yeah,
it, and
and
maybe there's like things. Yeah, that
So
too.
the-
But maybe like there's like things written on it, and you can it's like maybe the artist has a few words, and it's like you can read it while
to
you're
be
listening.
honest, I have not read one of those.
Yeah, I'm just saying you can. I'm just saying
That's
you can.
true. All
But,
right.
yeah.
Oh, you wanna sorry, you wanna
No,
say
no.
something?
I was gonna say that's what it is. It's what I like about it. Like having the art, like it's big. It's like you can like look at
Yeah.
it and
I'm just not that. It's difficult to say. I know music is an art form, but for me, it's more
Yeah.
like a given. You know,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
like it's very sad to say, but it's not like I look at it like, damn, that's art.
Yeah.
If there is really a good song, I might that thought does pop in my mind, but not in generally.
I guess it boils down to what you like. I mean,
Yeah, but I like a lot of songs.
I can't
and-
tell you have to listen to music because it's art form. I mean.
No, it's just about how I experience the music. Like
Mhm.
I can't imagine myself going to like for example to a museum and listening to different music things.
Mhm.
It just doesn't work that way for me. Music.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, if I go to a museum, I'll see some paintings because I cannot have them in my home, but I can have music in my home. You know. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, you can look up the painting on Google Images. You know
that's true.
what's different? I mean, like, what's the difference between putting up the Mona Lisa or like seeing it in front of you? You know, it's like okay, maybe that's a bad example, but
No, I
like
get what you mean.
you know what I mean, right? It's like it's different, and whether you like,
But
maybe
that's my
you're
point.
like,
I think for us it's different, but I think the next generation, the line of what is normal for them is just gonna be shifting.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
like,
that's true.
and that's. I'm not saying worrying. I just think that's inevitable, and it's just gonna be like that. We cannot really do too much about it or
Yeah.
say. That's why I'm also like, I was a bit of a doomsday thinker before, but last years I've become more acceptance of. Okay, AI is gonna be a thing. Okay, we're gonna evolve this way. People are gonna have less attention span.
Yeah.
I'm just accepting it more right now instead of before I was always like, why are people this way? It's don't you see where this is going? I'm like the old grumpy dad that is like
I don't know. I don't think it has to be one or the other, though. I think that, like as long as culture has a place and people are actually enjoy culture, and it doesn't have to be music or paintings. It
but
can
what
be.
is culture now?
it
I
can
think
be-
even culture is gonna dissipate a bit.
Do you
know?
think so? I don't know. I think it's something almost inherently human in a way. I think that as long, but because now I'm talking about music, and we're talking about music, but I think like even just, I mean, it's just like a matter of self-expression, right? And like experimentation, and like seeing what way, what how far can
Yeah,
you
I
push
get
it,
that.
and
I think because of globalization, it's just less clear.
it's like you could say the to go back to the bone flute. It's like, why would someone make this? Doesn't that person need to hunt for their food? It's like there was a reason that someone decided to go to do that, and there's a reason that it stayed. It's still going on.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm not taking away the function or the role it fulfills. I'm just saying, let's take cultures for example, because it's clear for me, or very easy to picture it for me. Because of globalization, we have a lot of, for example, Indians coming into Europe.
Mm.
They are mixing their culture with our culture. We are learning about theirs, they are learning about ours, and we are growing towards something more fusion-ish,
Sure.
like. And I think on every area of life this is happening. Like, there are no distinctions between things, are getting less and less distinct in my opinion. Maybe for music
but
it's a bit different.
is that a bad thing? Does it have to mean that certain music is gonna, or certain art forms are just gonna die out?
I don't think it will die out. I think it will die out in the way that we know it now. For example, vinyl and stuff. Like, I understand it's an uprise because it has appeal to us, and there is maybe more to it. I'm generalizing it a bit, but I do think in the way I see the youth growing up, that it's like, I don't see this happening in 50 years from now.
Yeah.
100 years from now.
I don't know.
And then we're even talking about short periods. What will we be in 200, 300, 400 years? Like, I think a lot of it depends on the setting we grew up, and people grew up in different settings, and then they have different morals and different views and different borders, and then they grow up and get old, and then there's a new like, I think this is on every area, and it's inevitable, and that's also why I'm less of a doomsday thinker nowadays. Like, if I like a certain art form in a certain way or not, it doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day.
Why doesn't it matter though?
In the bigger picture, I mean, like, for me it does.
Because you're just an individual in the whole.
Yeah, for me it does matter, but I don't think everybody sees it that way as to how I see it, and I think it shifts away from that.
Yeah.
It's a big point to make, but
a whole different discussion. That's like.
It's
so
just
that's
a
also
general.
kind of
It's just a general
wheelhouse.
trend, how globalization is impacting our lives. But that's just how I started looking at everything.
You're seeing it in terms of like everything becomes a fusion, but a lot of music is inherently a fusion of many different things.
That's
like
true.
Jazz wouldn't. I mean, it's maybe a bit intense to say, but like jazz wouldn't really exist if there wasn't. It sounds so fucked up to say, but like if there wasn't the transatlantic slave trade, because that's what brought again it sounds super fucked up to say, but that's not what I mean.
I get the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, it's worded very badly, but I mean inherently it's like people call it black music, black American music, whatever, but essentially it's all just they took something from classical music, or white music, or whatever you want to call it, classical music. Like country was also has its roots in the blues, which also is like very much an like a black American thing, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how better to word it, but
I get that.
And like the whole
I'm not saying that there will not be genres.
Even the whole pop music, and like the whole idea of the beat, it's a very African thing. In a way, it's more African than Western classical. You know what I mean? The whole reason why we have DJs that play like a beat or techno beat and stuff, it comes from somewhere, you know.
I'm not saying like it's a very good example to illustrate what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that genres will die out or that things will not be experimented with anymore. I'm just saying all the lines are gonna get blurred. Just as you said, Van, like this this beat is originating somewhere from Africa. I don't think many people will be able to make such a correlations anymore at some point in music, you know? Like, where does this sound come from?
I don't see it as a bad thing, though. I generally don't like
putting
things in boxes. I think it can be a bit problematic if you put everything in boxes. You know?
I get that. I'm just seeing more in terms of diversity, because especially for in biology, diversity is king, you know? Like, if everybody has the same genes, we're all gonna be fucked at some day in our lives. That's why I'm very much a proponent of diversity in as much areas as possible, just to have better interactions with each other.
I think as long as we humans have the, you know, as we can actually freely express ourselves in like these art ways or whatever, I think there will be different genres and different. But I don't think everything is gonna become one thing. I think that's a bit dystopian, if you ask me.
It's maybe a bit far-fetched, but I think like there may be genres, but they will maybe be closer together and not try to get out as much. And at some point we will integrate more Eastern sound and also try to make that more in something unanimous.
I would like that.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying it takes away the diversity we have. Like, now you can listen at Chinese music and you're like, I've never heard these sounds before in my life. I think at some point this is gonna be...
With the internet, you mean?
In general, just like with AI, with DJs, like every aspect of the industry, but it's even broader than that. With the gene pools I was talking about, everything is migrating towards a more unanimous thing. And I'm not saying there will not be different genres in it. I think there will still remain genres, but they will be closer linked to each other than now. Now you have like for example, Eastern Chinese music is in nowhere similar, I think, to Western music. And at some point these will kind of integrate somehow a bit. I'm not saying it's gonna be one-on-one, but they will be closer together. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
you mean maybe like in function, or like why people would listen to it?
Yeah, exactly. What people gravitating towards certain sounds, you know, like...
Yeah. Sure, but
that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I would love it if there was more like genuine, like traditional Indian or like influences of Indian music, for instance, because I like that stuff. You know, it's but I mean, you see, it's like the internet already has like obviously like streaming, you know, elephant in the room, but even on musicians, like a lot of musicians now, and I'm kind of a product of that, but especially people who grew up with internet and actually, like, you know, started playing early on with the internet, like they have a crazy skill set if you compare it to, you know, more older generations, you know.
That's true.
That's you have these also in the jazz world. You have these people, these, you know, I say kids, but like people like 18 years old, like crazy musicians, just insane, and some of them are doing stuff that you haven't heard before, you know, and it's all because of the internet, because there's just that abundance of information. And that's also why, like, the more traditional stuff sounds so more, I guess, for lack of a better word, pure. It's not really the word I would use, but they didn't have as much access to information, you know.
That's true.
They couldn't play a song over, like a part of a song over and over, and they had to like put the needle and then to even do that, you had to have the record. To do that, you had to find the record, and to buy the record, you had to have the money to buy the record. You know, and not everyone could do that. You know, it's like it's so different now.
Maybe the idea I'm trying to picture here, or the idea I'm trying to say here more, is more in the sense of, do you know like the Big Bang and the Big Crunch theory?
Maybe if you elaborate.
This is a theory that actually Big Bang happens like million times over already, and that every time there's a Big Bang, everything dissipates, going as far as possible, and at some point these forces will be so far apart, or this matter will be so far apart that they start gravitating towards each other again, and then they form this big ball again.
And there's gonna be a Big Bang again.
And then a Big Bang, and then the next thing happened. And I think purely, like, I'm not saying this is gonna happen. I'm just saying a lot of aspects of life I view this way. That everything, for example, let's take what I'm very familiar with, genetic differences. I think we all originate from Africa. We know that. We all are from this single point. We expanded, we Big Banged, until all the room that was available on the planet is gonna be taken.
Yeah.
And at that point we are gonna crunch again. We're gonna go back to, we cannot grow any more than that. And the gene pool is gonna slim down and be more homogeneous again.
Yeah.
And I think that's also maybe something that can happen to music industry.
You mean that there's gonna be so many things that people are gonna go back to
something original and an old sound, maybe, I don't know, like in a new jacket, of course. But I think something like that might also be on the horizon for music.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's gonna happen in your lifetime. I definitely don't think so.
I mean, you could say what I said about like the Beatles thing. What we
it's
said,
something similar in
like,
that it fits in that theory.
Yeah.
And I think
I mean, yeah, sure. I think that, I don't know. I wanna hope that maybe it's like a bit of a, it's like how do you say it? It's like a pendulum, like it's like the balance goes one way and then
everybody's tired of the old shit and they want the new shit again.
This guy kind of goes back and forth. I don't know if that goes a lot deeper than what I'm thinking about, but yeah.
Yeah, basically that was my thought that I got from our conversation today. Like, it kind of struck me. How similar certain aspects are with how I already view life.
I mean, the same thing has been happening too, right? If you look at, I mean, for instance, just vinyl. That the fact that it's back on the rise. It's like I think it's kind of a similar thing. I think there was I think maybe, I don't know when, but probably like when CDs came out, were invented or something like that. Maybe at that point people went fully on the digital, and we were like, okay, why would I, or like synthesizers, for instance, like people made digital synthesizers. They could in practice, in theory, they could do so much more, and they were like, okay, why would we need this analog bullshit? I have this is much better. But then now that this analog stuff is like, people are realizing, oh shit, you can't, this is actually kind of nice, and that stuff is going up in value. The same with vinyl, and I don't know, maybe it's like maybe at some point something will come out which like trumps everything, and people are going back to that and going like, okay, fuck all this shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to say, in my theory, then, where we are at this point. Is it still expanding, or are we shrinking already? I don't know, but
I don't know too.
I think if I look at it from a biological perspective and I try to use those theories on music, it seems something like that to me. But who am I? Like, I'm definitely not a musician, so
I mean,
that's just my two cents on it.
I mean, we're not musicologists. It's like,
is that a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay.
Well, it's like, like music history and like music you know,
Musicologist.
like
Okay.
yeah, like the whole cultural impact, and like because you don't, you know, I'm a musician, but I don't know all music history, you know, like
No, definitely.
I'm not qualified to teach music history. You know
No,
what I mean?
don't quote
even,
any.
even though I'm a musician, so
No, I
you
get
know,
that.
there's definitely like that's definitely a whole different branch.
Different aspect of music.
Yeah.
All right, I think maybe we do
The Zoe questions. Or
maybe a few questions. How long are we? 2 hours and a quarter already.
Damn.
Okay.
time flies.
Yeah, fuck the ChatGPT questions. We'll just.
Let's get some human questions.
Yeah,
Goddammit.
we're going back to you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
This one is a nice one. What is a moment or era in history you would have loved to be part of? And I would say, like, I presume experiencing the music
Like as a
being
musician.
made. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ones, but I just like the music that I like the most. If I would have to pick one, like one period, like just listening to it, I really love like the music that comes out from the 60s and 70s.
And that's
Like-
like funk and what is that?
Yes, well, it's like funk, but it's you know, like jazz in that age like started to evolve more, and like people in jazz started to take more stuff from rock, and rock started to come, rock and roll
Yeah.
started to become a thing. So it was like the jazz guys started to pick some things and then started to make their own shit, which is wild. And I just like what comes out of that, and it's also you know, like there's not much digital there's no
Yeah,
digital
yeah.
stuff going on, so it's like it's still being played and still like kind of, I don't know, it sounds very raw to me.
Yeah, I
like
get
it.
that.
I do like it.
Was it a period where jazz was very popular, or maybe?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't.
No?
I think jazz was at its most popular, like, you know, in the 30s or so, 40s
30s,
or
okay.
40s or 50s maybe. I
A
think.
bit earlier than
Yeah.
60s, 70s. Yeah.
I think 60s. It's already on the decline. But I mean, yeah, jazz hasn't been popular. Like if we're talking like mainstream popularity,
No,
jazz
just
hasn't been
talking in
popular for so
perspective of
long.
jazz, you know.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't really haven't really lived in that period.
Oh, really?
But I do. But
You were not a slave back then.
oh Jesus. No, I don't think. What was I gonna say? Fuck.
Sorry. No.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I just like the sounds that were coming from them. There's still like music from like jazz from the 60s. You know, I listen to a lot of jazz, so
Obviously.
yeah, obviously. So there's a lot of jazz like from the 60s and and early 70s, which like there's like a turning point there, and there's like some experimentation, and it's very specific to that era especially. And there's still some music of that era that's still like nobody has done something like it, or like it's still so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's crazy.
I think that's, I guess, the beauty of jazz is that you can always keep adding things to it. It seems.
that's I mean that's a 2-hour discussion and this whole thing.
Shit, sorry.
It's like no it's I mean that's yeah, that's like it's still going strong, you know. It's yeah, it's, you could see it as a genre, but it's also like kind of a mindset as well, right? It's like this whole improvisational stuff, and like the
Yeah.
it's
It's more
it's
comparable
wild.
with the freestyling of hip hop, for example. Like
I mean that's a part of it,
you
but
a lot of it is not something you can practice really for. It's something you have to just do and
I mean,
experience
you
in the
can
moment.
practice it for sure,
Yeah, but
but yeah, it comes back to the language
can you
thing.
practice improv? You know, like that's a bit the
Oof.
thing I'm
That's also a discussion because yeah, because it's like a lot of like in jazz there's a lot of improvisation, but you could also argue it's actually repetition
of
because it's
something
like,
you learned already.
yeah, it's like I saw this in an interview once. This person Richard Bona is like a amazing bassist. He says like, you know, if you like wake up in a jungle, you know, you're all alone, you're naked, and then you see a tiger in front of you, you know, like what you do then, that's improvisation, you know. But in jazz, that's not what's happening. You're playing stuff that's kind of, you know,
You already
it's
know
kind
a
of in
bit
your
what you're gonna
fingers.
play
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
kind of, it's all muscle memory. And but obviously there is like things that happen in the moment, but it's
So,
also,
yeah, there
it's
are also
become more complex
parts
than
that you don't control, like the other artist. Like you don't know what they are gonna play, right? Or do you already have like a certain?
depends on the type of jazz
Sometimes you
you're playing.
already have like an idea of what you're gonna play.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
But it really depends. The percentage of how free you can go really depends. You know, you can be free. You can play just even like pop music. You can play like the song and just be kind of free with how you play it, or you can go all the way other spectrum and go like, okay, do what you want.
Yeah.
You know, because there's like, you know, like free jazz, for instance. It's like, you know, it's
That's
like
90% free.
I mean, yeah, the idea is that you're not like, there's no harmony that you have to worry about, and there's no like pulse that you
There's
have to worry
no
about.
structure that you have to follow or something.
Some free jazz, some music has, but again,
For free jazz, I mean,
again,
yeah?
it's like a spectrum. So some music, it's like just play what you hear. You know, it's like be in the moment, play what you hear, communicate with however you want. But then you have also like, you know, like, okay, there is a beat, there is a pulse, and there is like a harmony, but
Yeah.
then maybe what you do in that is maybe up to you. You know, it's like there's different variations. Gradations, sure.
Gradations.
Like, yeah, it is like a gradient.
Okay.
But yeah, there's like, again, 60s, like there's some, you also in that era, there's in that aspect there's a lot of happening stuff. Yeah. I can
And
give
do
some
you want it to
recommendations, but-
play jazz in those years, or you wanted to be a listener? Like,
I don't know. I to actually live in that era, I don't know actually.
you don't have to take all the other things, just playing or listening. What would you think the audience would be maybe more receptive for jazz, or you don't think that's too much different right now?
I mean, I like to think so, but I think that maybe there's less audience for it, but then maybe I think that people who actually willingly go to the shows even today, I think that, you know, their ears are open, you know.
Yeah.
You know, even if I, you know, just randomly playing the musa, and you know, sometimes it's even like goes free, you know, and there's always like, yes, sometimes it's 5 people, sometimes it's 1. There's always someone who goes after the show. It goes like, guys, that was amazing, you know. There's always someone, even if it's just like one person.
I think maybe what you're trying to say is that people are more receptive is not the word I'm looking for, but like more willing to listen to different music genres.
Maybe, but yeah,
maybe it's difficult to compare because
maybe
we
there
haven't
was
lived
less
there.
as well. Maybe there was. I mean, yeah.
I think it's difficult to compare. We don't know anything for sure, actually.
Yeah, I mean, again, I only know so much about it. I'm also very much, busy with, you know, the art of playing music, and less about like the implications of the, you know, societal stuff, but also it's definitely also a part of it,
I'm looking just from a different perspective, I guess, to art.
No, but that's good. That's good. I mean, you always have both. There's always
an interplay.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, the music that I love, I would say like early 70s. I love that. That's the era. That's the only era that you could have like Miles Davis in Isle of Wight. It's like you have it on YouTube. It's like Isle of Wight. It's like basically like Woodstock, like the old Woodstock.
Yeah, I want to say, if I had to pick a period, it would be Woodstock period.
Yeah, exactly. It's that period. But like, yeah, it's fully on YouTube. It's amazing. It's like Miles Davis and his band. It's like a legendary jazz.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And he's playing on Isle of Wight festival, which is like Woodstock, just like a sea of people, all hippies,
all stoned out of their minds, you know. And the music that they're playing, it's like, you know, it's like from outer space, you know. You would never have that on a popular festival these days. Maybe on a jazz festival,
I think for me too, like going back to those days, like I think just a lot of things are so regulated right now, even in festivals and stuff. I think back then it was really like do what you please a bit more, you know. Like now it's all like, oh, heb je een bandje hebben backstage to go VIP or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, I mean, I think
that's normal, eh? But I think if I had to choose where I would go back,
that's
I
just
think
to
it
have
would
the
also
order
be
to,
that time period. I think people were like genuinely more curious to things. People nowadays are very, like you say, already in a box. They don't try to go out of their own box, and people think they have to be in a box. People are not like, I want to be who I am, and then I'll see which box fits me, like I was talking about before with the music.
There's this like little snippet of an interview with Frank Zappa that went viral. It's like Frank Zappa is also like it's also like it's not really jazz, but it's like, you know, he made music and made very political music, but it's also like super experimental, but also like rock and roll. It's very rock and roll, but there's also like a part of modern classical. Is like, it's very, you almost can't explain it, but his body of work is amazing. Is huge.
Okay.
But basically, he was saying, and he also, like, if you just look up interviews of him, there's like a YouTube video, like 10 hours of Frank Zappa interviews, and it's like he always has something, you know, even if you agree with it or not, it's always interesting. He was a very special man. But he was saying basically, like, there used to be the old radio stations, like it used to be like some old guy in a cigar with a cigar at the top, and it's like somebody like, oh yeah, we have this experimental music, and he would just be like, oh yeah, what is it? Oh, I don't know what it is, but let's try it, you know, just put it on, and then, you know, you know, some music of experimental nature, you know, actually people gravitated to it, and they were like, okay, all right, this is working. Let's bring in a young guy to someone who actually like knows this music. And then the young guy starts bringing coffee or whatever, but then maybe in years and years he becomes at the top, and then that young guy who's now older is like no, like I know what the people want, you know, I know what the young people these days want. They don't want this experimental stuff. They want this, like, they want the things that, you know, they want this type of music and that. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he's saying. It's interesting, you know. Yeah. Interesting to think about.
Frank
Zappa, yeah. It's Frank and Zappa.
Okay.
Zappa.
Easy enough to remember.
Yeah. It's just, if you put in Zappa, it's like you can talk for hours about him. Seriously. Like,
for another podcast. Maybe.
Yeah. Like that's one. I have a vinyl plot of
really?
vinyl record. Yeah.
Probably listen to it then, because I tried a lot of plates already. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Do you say it like that? Plates?
Records. Yeah. Final records.
Okay. You want any other questions?
Most impact on the music that we know today.
I think it's pretty similar for you, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say. 'Cause it's also like kind of a musicology question, you know. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, but I think like Bach, is more of an influence than most people realize, I will say.
I think so too. Like classical music.
Yeah. But I'm saying like specifically like
Bach,
people like Bach.
Okay.
It's, I there's only so much I can say about it, but it's like it's.
Yeah, I think I don't know enough about Bach to understand the nuances that have trickled into other music.
I mean, I don't even know enough about it to be able to explain it in words.
To do it justice.
Yeah, exactly.
No, okay. I think maybe we'll wrap it up then here, or sure. You want to do one more question? I don't know what you feel like.
Let's
if there's anything that speaks to you.
I'm gonna say I want to get off the societal things a bit, because there's only so much that I know about it.
This is culture, but maybe this one, but it's also like
recurring themes, patterns. I wanna just talk about some artists that I like.
Okay.
That I'm listening to. That's all.
Definitely.
Like without
Any-
implications or
yeah.
any. I just think that I like.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
shout out to which one first.
Yeah. So I mean, just the ones I named. Frank Zappa for sure. Miles Davis.
Mhm.
There's this one guy I've been listening to a lot. It's called Mono Neon.
Who?
Mono Neon.
I've heard about it from Mats.
I showed Mats him. He's like this. He's like, I think he's like 33 or something. He's like this young guy from America, and he's a bass player. That's why I know him. He's a amazing virtuoso, crazy
Mhm.
player, but like his whole thing is like what I said, Dadaism, like this whole abstract modern art thing,
Mhm.
and he expresses it also through his clothing. So his whole concept is like high visibility clothing. So he's like wears like these like fluo heshes,
Yeah.
like this, and his bass guitar also has all these fluo stuff on it, and he has like a bright sock on his bass. It's like crazy. It's like all if you put him like if you see him in a band, it's like he stands out the most.
Yeah.
He's like this guy, but he's super down to earth. He's just like standing there playing the most amazing thing ever, and just looking like I don't know, like an alien. And I just wanted to shout him out. A
No, I
great
get
singer.
that.
He plays also like with his bass like this, left-handed,
Oh, okay.
but the strings are also swapped.
Right-sided.
Yeah,
Oh.
like the highest string like on top.
Oh,
it's-
okay. Yeah, I
it's
was
like-
thinking like if you play for the right
Yeah.
hand bass, left hand, there would be problems, But
Yeah, like normally left-handed people do that, but they change the strings, so it's normal, right? He just takes a bass that's like I have, and he just like
it doesn't change it.
yeah, he doesn't
Oh,
change
okay.
it. He just flips a right-handed bass and he plays it left. That's how he learned to play, and the joke is he's right-handed. That's the joke. It's like, what the fuck. But yeah, but his music, it's like I think he played with Prince shortly before he died, so it's like, and that says enough.
Yeah, it's
But his music is very, it's really interesting because it's like a mixture of like funk and blues and like all these 70s, all this, Prince and all this, really dancey stuff
yeah.
and blues, and at the same time it's also like super abstract,
A
expressionistic,
bit out there,
out
like,
there, yeah, but with the funk in the bottom,
Yeah.
it's like it's
It
interesting.
inspired you like maybe I should also like
a little bit, yeah.
experiment a bit more with maybe clothing or stuff, or don't you see
Yeah,
that?
I haven't gone that far yet, but yeah.
But I think
Maybe.
it's not to say you dress bad, but I think like you say, a lot about an artist is also like his image and how he is
Yeah.
perceived by others, and I think there it does sound like
Definitely.
that is also a big thing for you, if that's the first thing like you're saying, like, oh look, this dude is
Yeah.
is
But I mean,
flashy,
it's-
is this, is that, he
I
has
mean,
a
it's the
sock, he
first
plays
thing- if you-
left-handed.
If you just look him up just on Google, Mono Neon, just on and one word. Yeah, just how he looks, you're gonna know what I mean.
It is.
Yeah,
It's,
but that's his old outfit. Now he wears some wild stuff. But
yeah,
he's actually really getting popular. It's nice to see.
yeah, honestly, I
'Cause,
think
yeah,
I've seen
what
his
I-
face before.
What I wanted to say was I discovered him like when I started playing bass like 10 years ago or something, and he just started making YouTube videos of like bass covers, like just playing bass in his bedroom, and like he already had like all this fluo stuff. He like this stuff with this one with the mask.
This one?
Yeah. He was wearing that, and that's literally from a YouTube video. This picture, so it's like, and he was playing the craziest shit, and I was like, God damn, who is this man? He was like posting every day almost.
But don't you think?
like this shit?
Don't you think that like it maybe takes away a bit of his music, or you don't think that?
Nah,
That
I think
people
he. I
only
think.
know him because of how he dresses or how
I mean, he still
out
plays.
there he is.
He
you
still
know?
plays what the way he plays. So I mean, the music speaks for itself. You know. I think. I
Yeah.
think if you close your eyes, then the music sounds like what he looks like.
That's difficult.
Yeah, but you just have to listen to
Okay.
him.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of
Yeah.
songs that must be.
But yeah,
known.
just for the listener. But it's not for everyone. It can get kind of weird what he's doing. So it's not for everyone. But
Maybe
if you
I
have an
should
open
share it
mind,
also.
shout out. Okay, nice.
So
Yeah, there you
we're
go.
talking about this guy, but I'm just thinking like, a lot of it is the experience.
Definitely.
But how would you feel if people only knew about you the way you dress? Like, I'm not saying it's you, but for me, for example,
Yeah.
I only will remember this guy about how he dressed.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you
yeah.
think
If you
that's-
don't listen
that's-
to the music, then that's what you get out of it.
Yeah,
But-
I've listened to his music, but I'm saying like, I listened to 2 of the songs and I don't think they stick to me. I don't
Sure, but
remember
that's
anymore how
fair,
it
huh?
sounds.
Yeah.
But it can be very good. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. I'm saying it's not for everybody, but yeah, it's like it's very unique. That's what I'm saying.
But I was asking, would you be okay if people remember you about how you look and how you act, or would you like people to mainly remember or know you about the music
I mean,
you
yeah.
play?
I mean, I would like the people remember for the music, but I mean that's for me. It's like kind of part of it.
Yeah, because I also think so. I think
Because
a lot
with
of
me,
it
because
enhances each other.
yeah, because I do think his music does speak for itself. You know, I think he
You
could
can
dress.
listen it on Spotify and be like, this shit bangs, you know, like.
Yeah, or this shit is special, is interesting. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of all of his music on Spotify. I'm just saying, but I just think like conceptually, it's something very
No, I think
unique.
he definitely has a good recipe for getting
Yeah.
out there, you know, for getting
Yeah, sure, but
people
the
to
thing
look
is
at
that
you.
the thing is that he also like he dresses this way in his daily life. Like he made, like he made this
I
into
don't
what
think
he
he
what he
dresses
is.
this way in his daily life, right?
Well, maybe not the mask, but I think he would definitely.
Fluovish?
The Fluovish, definitely. I'll do it definitely.
Yeah?
I'm sure of it.
Okay.
Like this thing with the flowers, yeah, that's more recent. Yeah, for sure.
Looks like an old granny sweater.
Yeah, it's like a quilt. It's like his whole thing now is like quilted stuff. It used to be like Fluovish, but yeah, if you look at his first things on YouTube, it's some weird shit. But now, if you look up a live concert of him, like from this year, it's like it's really like fun, like no bullshit funk, you know,
Yeah.
some good stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just shout
no.
out Mono Neon.
Yeah, shout out to Mono Neon. If you ever listen to this,
Yeah,
you know where to find David. He's right here.
yeah, exactly.
No, but I think you're definitely right that it has a lot of influences on each other, and it's not like people only remember him for this or
Mhm.
that or music or not, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think
if it
it
makes
does fit
people
the vibe. Like,
if it makes people check out the music, then I don't see a problem. I don't see a problem with it regardless. I mean, you can have your image.
no, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just I was wondering.
Yeah.
Let's take for example that people only know about you, about how you dress. Would that mean something to you?
Well, not if it's only how I dress, but I don't think people reduce it all only to that.
No,
Yeah.
mainly.
I mean, no, I wouldn't like that, but
It does enable it, your music, his music.
yeah.
Because you're like,
I mean-
ooh, it looks funky and you're already more tuned in, you know?
Mm.
That's how I, like, if I look at his pictures, I'm already like,
Who is this guy?
Yeah, what is he playing, you know, with his
Yeah.
sock on his things?
yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I think that's very deliberate, though. I think that.
Yeah, definitely, it's
Yeah.
a strategy, yeah?
But I am also sure. I'm sure. Definitely, like he means the shit for sure. Because
Yeah,
he's been doing
he's-
this since he
yeah,
was
definitely.
18, I think.
He was
Yeah.
doing this no matter what, you know, like,
Yeah.
I get that. So I'm not
Yeah.
taking away, I just think like,
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like it's like more than, it transcends like just being a musician or just being a bass player.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Like there is
a real
lot
artist.
of aspects to it that can make people discover you or get to know you. Like him. Like this is a good example of somebody that I would never have known of. Even if you've set him and showed him some pictures, I would still not remember him in a week or from now. But this guy now I will, you know, like
I mean, and
how can I forget this
he
face,
calls
for
himself
example,
Mono
you know,
Neon.
like
He calls himself Mono Neon, and he also like on his sweater. It's like 5 times on his sweater. It's tattooed on his hand, his bass.
On his bass,
it's. I think it's genius. On his strap, exactly. I think it's genius.
Yeah, it's a very good.
And let me tell you, as a bass player, this guy is. I think he's probably my favorite bass player.
Really?
Or one of
okay.
I've never heard what he's doing. I've never heard it being done before. I will say like
that's a lot
for
of
me,
coming from a
genius.
bassist player.
Yeah, for me, like this guy is like, he's like genius for me.
Okay, so definitely everybody that is listening, you gotta check this guy out. A bass player recommending another bass player.
It's sometimes it's pretty weird, but he also has some really good.
Maybe
good stuff.
what's the most accessible song that he has?
This
maybe
album. It's called Superman. Like Superman, but with an E at the end. Okay. I would say like it's I think it's like 1 or 2 years old. This album, it's pretty like these are like listenable songs.
Very matured albums, you know. Like,
I would say like some good songs, because he has also like other music that's just weird, but
a bit experimental.
But this he also dabbles with the microtonal stuff, like like the tuning things that we talked about. He also like dabbles with that.
Okay.
But this album, like that's pretty. I would say that's his most accessible thing.
Okay. Superman. Main.
Superman, like Superman, but mine. He also like he's just, if you look interviews, he's just like super down to earth and sounds like Kermit the Frog. Just like
what Kermit the Frog?
You just have to he just.
Damn. I wish I could have
he's
played
just like,
something
now.
He's
just like, he's always like, I'm just, doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to work on my stuff. Just super down to earth. But like, I listen to him and it's dude, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, his outfit would not say that. Like, his outfit would say like, look at me.
His whole aesthetic is also like inspired by I said Dadaism. With like, for instance, famous one is Marcel Duchamp, like the toilet. The urinal, like that art piece. Yeah. Like maybe that kind of concept, like that's his whole aesthetic.
Put it somewhere out there that it's not supposed to be. Yeah,
like just like a different, like a
breaking
different
the norm.
Yeah, like different way of perceiving art. Like that's kind of part of the whole thing.
Yeah. To be honest.
And the sock,
that last part that you said with the toilet. I've very much difficulties with such art. Like,
that's fair. That's why it's so polarizing.
I had this whole discussion. I think you were with it with the blue painting.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I know.
I like what is what is art?
Yeah, that's that's a whole podcast. But but
we literally
that's why it's so polarizing. That's why everyone talks about. That's why everyone still talks about the urinal.
The things that polarize are the things that are getting the most attention always. So that's also something I have to work on.
I think that's also the things that keep things moving,
That's true. It's very true.
If there's a group of people that love it, and there's also a group of people that absolutely hate it, and I know this is something good, Yeah,
that's true.
That's how I like to think about it.
And that's very true.
Yeah. That's how I like to think about it,
Yeah, I think that's beautiful thought to wrap it up. Or if you want to shout out another homie,
I think this is a handful for now. So.
And you also had Jose.
Jose James.
Jose James also.
Yeah, if you want to check it out, check out the album No Beginning, No End. It's called. It's way different than this, but he's a singer. Is it fucked?
My camera fell out.
Your phone camera.
Yeah, I think my phone is empty. Well, this was, I guess, it.
This is the audio. This is the audio portion of the podcast.
So now we're going in part 2.
Just for the people listening in the car, you know.
So next topic.
Smooth voice radio show.
Next, be careful because
sorry.
I don't have the noise cancelling thing, so if you grab it, it's just gonna.
Sorry. I'm not gonna.
He's just memeing around with the car people.
Exactly. I mean, if you've made it this far, then my man or woman, you know.
David wants to talk to you, you know. Talk about art.
Talk about art with me, please.
So Jose
James,
James, and which album? Sorry, I forgot.
No Beginning, No End.
No Beginning, No End.
It's probably my favorite album of his.
Alright.
That's that artist that I was really happy to have.
Yeah, that you toured around in Europe with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also remember that time when you were touring with him, when you came back, that you were very stoked, you know, like you were like, okay, let's do this. And,
that was a different vibe.
That's normal, like we all have ups and downs of motivation and inspiration in life.
That was during the Kraakpand days. Yeah.
I think also early Autism, no?
No. Was it James? No.
How do I know about it then? Because I vividly remember you coming back from it and that you were like...
Maybe I talked about, I don't know.
Okay.
Or maybe it was something else.
No, was it not in Autism? No.
It was 2021, was it? It was November. It was like October, November 2021.
Did you...
No.
We have to talk about it as an off podcast,
But
I remember also another instance, but maybe...
maybe that's like a different
artist.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also
like
vividly
Natalia.
remember that name, so it's weird. My mind is a bit
maybe
scrambled.
I just talked about it or something.
Yeah, my mind is a bit scrambled right now.
Maybe because he like asked me recently, but I couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I think a month or like 2 months ago.
Oh no, it was way back. It was
this
more
one
than
I
a
couldn't
year
make the
ago that
show.
I remember the memory.
Okay, never mind then. Yeah.
Something else. Whatever. Anyways, blackout screen. We're doing peace sign art, and that was it. Thank you for joining, David. I didn't
Thank you very much for having me.
Anyways,
It was a good chat. 3 hours almost.